Chapter 389. Ling Xiao had another guess about the aura of the immemorial martial soul in his body. Lahi's mountain river martial soul was obviously an immemorial martial soul from the beginning. It should have existed in the remnant scroll that Hong Qi's grandfather gave him. Later on, it lodged in his body. But later on, it actually completely merged with his soul. Was this an immemorial martial soul or an awakened martial soul? Ling Xiao was also a little confused. Master, the immemorial martial soul is a very precious treasure. Martial souls are divided into several types according to different inheritances. Among them, the immemorial martial soul is the most powerful and oldest type. The Plague Demon King martial soul continued to explain. But I've read a lot of information about the martial soul in the sect. There's very little information about the immemorial martial soul, and there's no record at all. Ling Xiao sighed. He could actually guess what happened. During the period of time when martial spirits were extinct, all records of martial spirits had disappeared. They had either been burned or taken to other places to be hidden. In short, Master, martial souls are not only important to the human race, but also to other races, and martial soul inheritances are even more mysterious. It's said that even the lowest level of martial soul inheritances can greatly improve a warrior's martial talent, comparable to a divine treasure body. There's actually such a saying. It seems that people nowadays really don't know much about martial souls. Not only that, there's almost no way to test the strength of a martial soul. It can only be shown in battle. Perhaps because of this, some real geniuses were missed by those stupid sections. The Plague Demon King martial soul probably absorbed some of the Plague Demon King's personality, so its attitude was somewhat arrogant and domineering. However, it was completely obedient to Ling Xiao. Well, actually it couldn't be said to be obedient because it originally belonged to Ling Xiao. It was just a part of Ling Xiao's soul that was separated from him. Ling Xiao's understanding of martial souls had improved yet again. At the very least, he now understood that other than the ordinary aptitude test, the martial soul inheritance might be of even greater help to a martial artist. He suddenly thought of Dai. Therefore, he asked, I once had a cherry tree martial spirit, which was nourished by the mountain and river martial spirit. Then it was transferred to another warrior. Is this considered a martial spirit inheritance? Of course it counts. This belongs to the lowest level of martial spirit inheritance. In the profound world, forcibly depriving others of their martial spirit and then implanting it into another person's body can also be considered as the lowest level of martial spirit inheritance. However, it is very crude and does not really exert the full effect of martial spirit inheritance. Understood? Ling Xiao nodded. In the process of forcefully implanting someone's martial soul, there must be something missing, so it couldn't achieve the effect of a martial soul inheritance. Master, we've found the Plague Demon King's treasure. Following the voice of the Plague Demon King martial spirit, Ling Xiao discovered that he had actually arrived near the altar of the true Devil Supreme Lord. At this time, he had already returned to his original appearance and removed his humanoid dragon form. However, his powerful analytical ability still allowed him to discover the secret of the altar. On a row of bricks near the ground, there was a special array refining stone embedded in them. If he wanted to open this treasury, he had to break the array on the array refining stone. This array was a bit interesting. Other than having a powerful soul force equivalent to the Plague Demon King, he also had to analyze the special password. He didn't expect the Plague Demon King to be a powerful musician. After about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Ling Xiao's face revealed a surprised expression. The password left behind by the Plague Demon King on the stone bricks was actually a set of very good tunes. According to the results of his analysis, he used his soul force to knock on the stone bricks and began to play the tune. A moment later, the tune stopped, and the stone bricks actually disappeared. Then, a secret passage appeared there. Ling Xiao stepped on the stairs and walked down. The secret passage led to the treasury, which was at least 10 times larger than the basement above. The gold and silver stored inside was also 10 times more than the basement above. Ling Xiao could understand why the plague demon king would want these things. Recruiting troops and buying horses, there was no lack of gold and silver. In any case, after these people were tricked by the gold and silver, they would soon become their slaves. Unfortunately for now, Ling Xiao was not interested in gold and silver. After his heavenly dragon golden body broke through to the 5th level, he could be reborn from a drop of blood and did not need gold, so he no longer needed it. However, these things could be handed over to the divine sword sect. In the secular world, gold and silver were still very useful. Ling Xiao was concerned about other things. Oh, this is the Demon King seal of the true demonic empire. Good stuff. Each of the 9 demon kings of the true demonic empire had a Demon King seal. Although this seal did not have any special effects, it was the symbol of power of the true demonic empire's Demon King. With the Demon King seal, one could even command the Demon King's subordinates. Keep it. Ling Xiao kept the plague Demon King seal in the mountain river world. Who knew what use it would have in the future? Thinking about it, the plague Demon King was quite pitiful. Back then, he could be said to have swept through the entire Sky Dragon continent. His strength was unparalleled. However, he was actually killed by an ant, an outer sect disciple of the Yuehua sect. If this were to spread, his reputation would be completely ruined. Immediately after, Ling Xiao found a gourd of pills in a gourd. Although he did not know what kind of pill it was, just by smelling it, he knew that it was extraordinary. It was probably a standard grade pill. He had struck it rich. There were more than 50 pills, enough for him to use for a while. Next to the gourd of pills, there was a cloth bag with a jade token hidden inside. The jade token was white and delicate. It was definitely a high-quality white jade. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that the jade token exuded a vast and mysterious aura. It was probably not an ordinary item. Next to the jade token, there was a broken umbrella. It was obviously broken, but the plague demon king still kept it. Who knew what it was for? Master, that gourd contains the soul essence pill. This pill was refined using the souls of over 100 transcendent realm cultivators and 81 special herbs. It's a yellow-grade, low-grade pill. It's not an ordinary low-grade pill. It's much better. The plague demon king martial spirit suddenly explained. This pill is beneficial to the cultivation of transcendent realm cultivators. It's most effective for cultivators below the 5th layer of the transcendent realm. Oh, not bad. It was actually a yellow-grade, low-grade pill. This was the first time Ling Xiao had picked up a standard grade pill. This plague demon king was really a good person. He knew that Ling Xiao needed this, so he kept it for him, haha. Although the refining process of this soul essence pill was cruel and bloody, as it was the lives of over 100 transcendent realm cultivators. Since it had been successfully refined, he couldn't just throw it away. That would be too wasteful. Chapter 390. But I didn't expect the plague demon king to know how to refine pills. That's strange. Ling Xiao muttered to himself and continued to look for things that would be useful to him. However, the voice of the pestilence demon king didn't stop there. Master, that jade tablet should be related to an ancient inheritance treasure. Furthermore, it's very likely to be one of the keys to open that treasure. The pestilence demon king had just obtained that item and hadn't had time to study it yet. Treasure? Interesting. I love treasures the most. To a martial artist, a treasure meant that they could find divine weapons or martial arts manuals, or even rare treasures. One had to know that the mystic world had a history of more than 100,000 years. In this period of history, there were several blank periods, and there were very few historical records, especially the things left behind by the experts of the human king's generation from 100,000 years ago. So far, no one had found them. Ling Xiao injected his soul force into the jade tablet to check it out. He found that there was indeed a place inside that looked like a tomb. However, because the picture was incomplete, it wasn't very clear. He couldn't tell where it was for now. What's more, Ling Xiao knew too little about the mystic world. He knew too little about the Sky Dragon continent. Even if the picture was clear, he might not be able to recognize it. I'll keep it first and slowly study it later. Anyway, without this key, even if someone found the treasure, they could forget about getting it. What's this broken umbrella? Ling Xiao asked straightforwardly. That's the plague umbrella that the plague demon king once used. It's a divine grade spirit weapon. What? It's a spirit weapon. And it's a divine grade spirit weapon. Ling Xiao couldn't help but turn pale with fright. No wonder when he touched that broken umbrella, he felt an extremely terrifying aura rush into his body, as if it wanted to destroy him. Fortunately, he had the mountain river martial spirit, and this aura was instantly reduced to nothing. It's a divine grade spirit weapon. I really didn't expect it. However, this pestilence demon king was quite cunning. He had placed this broken umbrella here. If someone really wanted to break in and steal his treasures, once they touched this broken umbrella, the terrifying aura that would suddenly erupt would be enough to kill that person instantly. Unfortunately, the person who came here was Ling Xiao, and his evil plan couldn't succeed. I can't use this thing. Ling Xiao originally thought that he had found a good treasure and was overjoyed. However, when he tried to activate the magic treasure, it was a pity that there was no effect at all. It seemed that the books he had read weren't wrong. Spirit artifacts could only be used by Heaven Realm masters. Although this plague cleansing umbrella was broken and had lost a lot of its power, it should still be a common grade spirit artifact at the very least. It was not something a transcendent realm cultivator like him could use. He had once heard from Yang Danlin that the most powerful treasure in the Yuehua school was the Moonlight Sword, which was considered the most precious treasure of the school. However, it was only a fine-grade spiritual artifact. In the sect, most of the elders and even the current sect leader only used divine artifacts. As mentioned before, weapons could be divided into treasured weapons, spirit weapons, true weapons, supreme weapons, and heavenly Tao weapons. In the secular world, there were also people who called the latter two immortal artifacts and divine artifacts. Each grade of weapon was further divided into 5 grades: common grade, fine grade, rare grade, immortal grade, and divine grade. For example, Ling Xiao's Ice Dragon Sword was a rare grade artifact, the Floating Snow Sword was a fine grade artifact, and the Plague Cleansing Umbrella was a common grade spirit artifact. He had seen many weapons so far, but this was the first time he had seen a spirit artifact. According to the information from the Yuehua school, the strongest weapon on the Heavenly Dragon continent was probably a spirit artifact. He had never heard of a weapon with a higher grade than a spirit artifact. In the sect, weapons were the most common, and most of them were below the rare grade. Immortal grade and divine grade artifacts could only be owned by those with deep inheritances, elders, or sect leaders. Once such an item appeared, it would be immediately snatched up. I didn't expect this broken umbrella to be a spirit artifact. However, even if it was a spirit artifact, I probably wouldn't use it. It would be better to use it as a material to make a better sword for me. If the Plague Demon King knew that Ling Xiao intended to use his own treasure as a material to make a sword, he would probably be angered to death. However, Ling Xiao couldn't care less about what a dead person would think. He had already made up his mind. Spirit artifacts to the current him had no meaning at all, because if he couldn't activate it, it was just a waste. Speaking of spirit artifacts, he suddenly thought of a piece of metal that he had coincidentally obtained in Sky Cloud City, which contained a terrifying, murderous aura. From the looks of it, the murderous aura was even more terrifying than the plague cleansing umbrella. Could it be that the piece of metal was a treasure of a higher grade than a spirit artifact? Ling Xiao looked into the mountain river world and saw that the piece of metal was stuck on a rock. It stood tall between heaven and earth, constantly releasing a terrifying, murderous aura. Forget it, this thing was also very dangerous. He would slowly study it in the future. He continued to search through the Plague Demon King's treasure and found over 10,000 pieces of lower-grade spirit stones, over 1,000 pieces of middle-grade spirit stones, and over 100 pieces of upper-grade spirit stones. All these things were naturally kept in his bag. There were also a few martial arts manuals which were all True Devil Empire's devil arts. They were all gold-grade martial arts. Unfortunately, the cultivation method was completely different from the human race's martial arts. He didn't intend to cultivate them, but kept them to see if he could auction them off in the future. He believed that in the mystic world there were many people who cultivated devil arts. Finally, he kept all the gold and silver. Anyway, his mountain river world was very big. Even though gold and silver had a relatively small effect on practitioners, but it wasn't completely useless. After completely searching through the Plague Demon King's treasure, Ling Xiao went to look for Shangguan Lei. The mission this time was really full of twists and turns. Wan Yanjun and Qin Zui actually fell to the enemy's side so easily. They didn't have any backbone at all. But this was good as well. Ling Xiao didn't have to kill them himself. Moreover, these two peoples treasured weapons, as well as that piece of gold brick, had all become Ling Xiao's spoils of war. At this time, Shangguan Lei had already fainted. He probably fainted because the battle just now was too intense, and he couldn't stand the terrifying aura. It had to be said that this person was very lucky. If he insisted on walking down the path of darkness like Wan Yanjun and Qin Zui, he might have been devoured by the Plague Demon King. Fortunately, he held his bottom line and stood with Ling Xiao. That was how he managed to save his own life. Even though he was missing a leg, this wasn't a problem. Transcendents could use puppet techniques to attach artificial limbs, and they were very useful. He Sua's body was once directly destroyed by Ling Xiao. Later, it was completely made out of puppet materials. Chapter 391. Apart from being injured, Shangguan Lei's most serious injury was actually the plague poison. But this matter was not a problem for Ling Xiao. He absorbed all of this plague poison and used it to nourish the Plague Demon King martial soul. Not long after, Shangguan Lei woke up from his coma. Seeing that it was Ling Xiao, Shangguan Lei immediately breathed a sigh of relief, then asked in surprise, "Junior brother Ling, what about the Plague Demon King?" Ling Xiao said indifferently, "Dead." He did not explain anything, and Shangguan Lei did not dare to ask any more. Shangguan Lei was very clear that this junior brother of his had too many secrets. The less he knew, the more benefits it would be for him. Anyway, he had made up his mind to absolutely not be enemies with Ling Xiao in the future. Although he did not know how the Plague Demon King died, he definitely died in the hands of junior brother Ling. Before fainting, he clearly felt an extremely terrifying aura. That was not the Plague Demon King's aura. Then there was only one possibility. This junior brother Ling concealed his strength. He was actually stupid enough to be enemies with this monster who was really tired of living. Perhaps junior brother Ling was even more terrifying than He Sua, and his future achievements would probably not be lower than Meng Yuan. He had to stand on the right side. "Senior brother Shangguan, do you plan to install a puppet prosthetic on this leg, or do you want it to grow out again?" Ling Xiao needed Shangguan Lei to owe him a favor. This way, if the sect asked, Shangguan Lei would definitely still be biased towards him. The fewer enemies, the better, and the more friends, the better. He had no enmity with Shangguan Lei in the first place, so there was no need to become like fire and water with He Sua and Meng Yuan. Of course it's better to grow it out again, but I don't have that ability. Shangguan Lei smiled bitterly. "That's easy." Ling Xiao said indifferently, "I once cultivated a 9 transformation golden body technique, which can use gold to regrow broken limbs. Originally, it could only be used on myself, but after I researched it and made some modifications, it can also be used on others. But the consumption of true essence will increase terrifyingly by 10 times. Don't worry, junior brother Ling. You saved my life. If you heal my broken leg, I, Shangguan Lei, will not harm you no matter how heartless I am." When Shangguan Lei heard Ling Zhao's words, he was overjoyed. "After returning to Yuehua School, I will sever all ties with Meng Yuan and He Suo. I will not contact them again. That won't be necessary." Ling Xiao smiled and said, "Senior brother, you don't have to act too special. Just continue to be on good terms with He Suo and Meng Yuan." "I understand." Shangguan Lei was secretly surprised. Ling Xiao was not even 15 years old, but his mind was so mature. By doing this, he wanted him to monitor He Suo and Meng Yuan for him. Amazing! Shangguan Lei was full of admiration. He thought to himself that Ling Xiao was indeed smart to be able to achieve his current achievements under the constant suppression and interference of He Suo. Otherwise, he would have died a long time ago. 2 hours later, large beads of sweat appeared on Ling Xiao's forehead, and his face was somewhat pale. However, Shangguan Lei's broken leg had completely grown back. This was the first time Ling Xiao used the 9 revolutions golden body technique to heal others, so he was not very familiar with it, which was why he consumed so much energy. "Junior brother Ling, you rest here first. I'll go find something to eat." Shangguan Lei saw that Ling Xiao was exhausted and said, "And go. Also find all the slaves. They have all been planted with plague seeds by the Plague Demon King. Once they leave the underground cave, they will definitely be poisoned to death. I have to find a way to get rid of all the plague seeds in their bodies." Ling Xiao nodded, then closed his eyes and began to recover. Although it consumed a lot of energy, to his surprise, his cultivation seemed to be showing signs of improvement. After Shangguan Lei left, he took a soul essence pill. The effect of this low-level yellow-grade pill was really overbearing. If he had taken it when he was in the martial vein realm, he would probably have died from bleeding from his 7 orifices. But now his cultivation was already at the early 2nd layer of the transcendent realm, so there was no problem. Coupled with the suppression of the ancient golden dragon's blood and the mountain and river martial spirit, this low-level yellow-grade pill did not dare act rashly. After half an hour, Ling Xiao suddenly opened his eyes, and 2 golden lights shot out from them. He broke through, and this time he broke through from the early 2nd layer of the transcendent realm to the peak 2nd layer of the transcendent realm, only a step away from the 3rd layer of the transcendent realm. He could feel that this mission had helped him a lot, not only because of the soul essence pill, but also because he had benefited greatly from the battle, especially in the battle with the Plague Demon King. If he had made the slightest mistake, he could have died on the spot. His true qi was also under great pressure, constantly boiling and growing. Finally, when the conditions were right, he was promoted. Beside him, Shangguan Lei sat cross-legged, guarding him. In front of him were thousands of valley residents, their eyes filled with fear. They all knelt there, trembling in fear, especially when they were intimidated by the golden light in Ling Zhao's eyes. Their bodies trembled even more. "Don't be afraid. I am Ling Xiao, a disciple of the Yuehua School. This time, I came to the valley to save everyone. The Plague Demon King that you were so afraid of has been killed by me," Ling Xiao said with a smile. "So it's a master from the Yuehua School. We're saved. But is the Plague Demon King really dead? The plague seeds in our bodies haven't disappeared." When the crowd heard Ling Zhao's words, they couldn't help but discuss excitedly and worriedly. "Absorb." Ling Xiao didn't explain. Instead, he waved his hand, and the phantom of the Plague Demon King martial spirit appeared behind him. Only Shangguan Lei could see this phantom. The martial vein cultivators and ordinary people couldn't see it at all. Ling Xiao did this to avoid trouble. It would be bad if he was mistaken for the incarnation of the Plague Demon King. With the appearance of the Plague Demon King martial spirit, thousands of plague seeds turned into green lights and flew out of the slaves' bodies. Then they all merged into the martial spirit. After the Plague Demon King martial spirit finished its task, it slowly disappeared. Long live the Yuehua school! Long live Master Ling! The slaves were originally residents of the valley. Some of them were even martial vein cultivators. They suffered a calamity and thought that this was how they would spend the rest of their lives. They would never see the light of day and die of sorrow. However, Ling Xiao's appearance changed everything. They actually got rid of the terrifying plague seeds and returned to normal. "Who among you can take on the responsibility?" Ling Xiao asked. 3 people walked out of the crowd, an old man and 2 young men. "I am an elder of the Green Valley. These 2 are the children of the Green Valley Master," the old man explained. "Very good." Ling Xiao waved his hand and took out tens of thousands of silver from the mountain river world. "I'll give this silver to you to rebuild the valley. There is no more plague here. I hope the Green Valley can be as beautiful as before." Chapter 392. Ling Xiao only took out some silver, but it could save thousands of people. He felt that this was a good deed and there was nothing wrong with it. Moreover, silver was basically useless to him. "Many thanks, Master Ling." Under the lead of the old man, those people solemnly knelt towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao did not stop them. If he did not let these people kneel, they would probably be afraid instead. After all, Ling Xiao was a disciple of the Yuehua school. Moreover, he was an expert who could kill the plague demon king. "Junior brother Ling, although the plague outside has been cleared, there are still many animals that have mutated due to the plague. If we don't get rid of them, I'm afraid these people won't be able to live." Shangguan Lei reminded. "That's simple. Just leave it to me." Ling Xiao faintly smiled and let Shangguan Lei lead everyone to pack up and prepare to leave the underground Devil Palace. He then turned and left. He went to deal with those animals. The infected animals did not need to be killed. They were only infected by the plague virus, so their temperament became violent. If the plague virus was expelled, then they could be easily dealt with. In just a quarter of an hour, Shangguan Lei and the others had not even finished packing up when Ling Xiao had already returned. "It's over." Shangguan Lei looked at Ling Xiao in astonishment, feeling that it was simply inconceivable. "And it's over. Moreover, I also took the time to contact the Northern Han troops stationed outside. They have already entered the valley and will help the people here to build temporary houses. As for this devil's den, let's inform the sect and let them deal with it." Ling Xiao had already taken everything that should be taken. Therefore, even if this place was handed over to the Yuehua school, there was nothing wrong with it. "We will listen to Junior Brother Ling's instructions." Shangguan Lei now prostrated himself in admiration towards Ling Xiao. He did not have the slightest bit of doubt. "Can I ask a question?" When he was leading the people out of the devil's den, Ling Xiao suddenly asked, "Were the 3 of you really incited by He Suo and Meng Yuan to kill me?" Although Ling Xiao had basically confirmed this matter, in the end it was only his speculation. He needed an accurate answer. Shangguan Lei nodded and said, "Junior Brother Ling's guess is correct. The 3 of us have a close relationship with He Suo. This time, it was him and Meng Yuan who enticed us with a large sum of money to make the 3 of us attack you during the mission." As expected, Ling Xiao sneered in his heart. The flame deity's disciples had really put in a lot of effort to deal with him. Unfortunately, their conspiracy would never succeed. "Then does Meng Yuan know the difficulty of this mission?" Ling Xiao asked again. "In the beginning, the 3 of us thought that this was just a normal level 3 quest. It should be easy for the 3 of us to complete it. Killing you was just a matter of convenience." Shangguan Lei replied. "However, now that I think about it, Meng Yuan's attitude was ambiguous, and his words inadvertently revealed the uncertain factors of this mission. Therefore, I suspect that he knew that this mission was very likely to reach level 4 or even level 5. He just didn't want to tell us, for fear that we would be scared and retreat. As expected, he's not a good person. He even cheated his own people?" Ling Shao sneered. His own people? Shangguan Lei shook his head and said, "No, junior brother Ling, you're wrong. In Meng Yuan's eyes, the three of us are just 3 chess pieces that can be discarded at any time. Other than his brothers and master, the others are not considered his own people." "I can understand." Ling Shao nodded and said, "To be honest, this time, if junior brother Ling didn't turn the tide and control the situation, I'm afraid I would have died." Shangguan Lei sighed and said, "It's already very lucky that I didn't die this time. The reward for this mission will all be received by junior brother Ling." Ling Shao didn't refuse. If it was his, it was his. He had already given Shangguan Lei a lot of benefits. If Shangguan Lei didn't know what was good for him, then he would naturally think of a way. This time, from the beginning to the end, it was only him who worked hard. Shangguan Lei helped a little. As for Wan Yanjun and Qin Zue, they were completely more of a hindrance. It wouldn't be too much for him to receive all the rewards. "Senior brother Shangguan, you go back to the sect and report the situation first. I'll stay here to guard in case other disciples come and snatch it." At this time, the plague had been completely removed. It was hard to guarantee that other sect disciples wouldn't come. It would be safer for him to stay here and wait for the experts of the Yuehua school to come. No problem. Shangguan Lei understood why Ling Shao wanted him to go back. First, it was because his strength was naturally not as good as Ling Zhao's. If he stayed here, he was afraid that he would be in trouble again. Second, it was probably a test for him to see how he would report to the sect after returning. This junior brother of his was really watertight. After Shangguan Lei left, Ling Shao didn't stay idle. Instead, he continued to search in the valley. Although he had already found most of the good things of the plague demon king from the treasury, in the process of searching this time, he still found a lot of spirit stone fragments left behind from the war in the past, as well as many growing in the valley. Treasures of heaven and earth that the plague demon king didn't have time to pick. These could be consumed directly, but they were more effective when used to refine pills. He could temporarily raise them in the mountain river realm. In addition, there were also a lot of treasure remains and fragments. He also collected these things. If he wanted to upgrade his 36 Big Dipper flying swords, he would need these materials. In the end, Ling Shao was completely rich this time. He was only an outer sect disciple, and the salary that most of the inner sect disciples of the Yuehua school received every month was a mere 100 low-grade spirit stones. This time he had obtained more than 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. Whether it was used to set up arrays or cultivate, they were very useful. Not to mention, there were also thousands of mid-grade spirit stones and hundreds of high-grade spirit stones. Only the core disciples had the chance to obtain mid-grade and high-grade spirit stones. Moreover, they could only get 2 or 3 mid-grade spirit stones every month. It would be good if they could get 1 high-grade spirit stone a year. He could be considered a real tycoon now. After Ling Shao returned to the Plague Manor from his treasure hunt, he found 3 disciples of the Beast King Palace standing there. The manor's door had been sealed, and the words Beast King Palace seal were written on it. The 2 sons of the Valley Master of the Green Valley that Ling Shao had just rescued were beaten black and blue. They were lying on the ground moaning. Seeing this, Ling Shao couldn't help but frown. Although the rules of the 12 sects were not to have conflicts easily. However, if someone was too shameless, Ling Shao couldn't care less about those rules. Master Ling. When the 2 sons of the Valley Master of the Green Valley saw that Ling Shao had returned, they were overjoyed and hurried over. "It's okay, leave everything to me." Although Ling Shao didn't have much to do with the people of the Green Valley, he was the one who had rescued these people. If someone wanted to touch them, he wouldn't be happy. Now that the 2 young masters of the Green Valley were injured, although they could still move, it was like slapping his face. Chapter 393. Looking at the white seal on the manor's door, Ling Shao revealed a disdainful sneer. "The Plague Valley mission was completed by me, Ling Shao. The Plague Demon King was also killed by me, Ling Xiao. Even those thousands of people were saved by me, Ling Xiao. If it was the Yuehua school that sealed this place, I could still accept it. But who does the Beast King Palace think you are? How dare you steal my Ling Xiao's credit? Just like that, under everyone's watchful eyes, he stretched out his hand and slapped it. The seal immediately turned to dust, but the two ordinary wooden doors were not damaged at all. This was the advantage of having exquisite control over his true yuan. In terms of true yuan control, if Ling Xiao said he was second, there were not many people in the Tianlong continent who would dare to say they were first. Bastard, what are you doing? Ling Xiao tore the seal on the Beast King Palace on the spot, which naturally caused the disciples of the Beast King Palace to be dissatisfied. The first to make trouble was actually a woman. This woman was dressed in a wild and sexy manner, and her appearance was also extremely coquettish. Looking at her, Ling Xiao could not help but think of Ling Yu. She was also a seductive woman, but she did not have a good ending. The woman swayed her graceful waist like a water snake. Her every move, even her words, were filled with a strong charm. However, Ling Xiao only glanced at her indifferently, and his eyes were filled with coldness. Although he also liked beautiful women, in his eyes this woman was only a poisonous snake that ate people. He did not doubt that this woman bore the burden of countless innocent lives, and most of them were probably men. Of course, those men who fell for her because of her beauty also deserved to die. However, that could not cover up this woman's evil and cruelty. The sects of the sacred dynasty had never been divided into good and evil. Therefore, one should not think that the 12 sects did not have people who practiced demonic arts. After the fall of the true demonic empire, many martial arts techniques flowed into the 12 sects. Ling Xiao's 9 demonic divine art probably appeared at that time, but it was unknown how it ended up in the small Ling family in Tianfeng City. I'm tearing the seal on the door. Is there something wrong with your eyes? Ling Xiao looked at this woman and said indifferently. He did not have a good impression of this woman, not only because of her arrogant tone, but more importantly, he could feel the cruelty and bloodthirst in this woman's aura. Although Ling Xiao also killed people, he would not kill innocent people. This woman was different. You knew that the seal was placed by the Beast King Palace, yet you still dared to tear it off. The woman's face was cold and her eyes were filled with killing intent. Nonsense. I completed the Plague Valley mission. Even if there's a seal, it should be the Yuehua sect. Don't tell me that the Beast King Palace wants to steal other people's credit? Ling Xiao was not afraid of his murderous aura. Instead, he hoped that this woman would not provoke him. He had killed enough people in the past few days, and he was too lazy to kill more people. Humph, you completed the mission? Do you have proof? The woman laughed disdainfully, full of sarcasm and pride. We can testify for Master Ling. The 2 young masters of Green Valley were bold enough to speak up for Ling Xiao at this time. You're courting death. The woman's eyes flashed with coldness. Suddenly, the shadow of a venomous snake appeared behind her. It was even sticking out its tongue. It was said that the martial artists of the Beast King Palace were not only good at controlling demonic beasts and ferocious beasts, but they also all had animal-type martial souls. Ling Xiao had seen it for himself today. This woman's martial soul should be a venomous snake. 5 steps snake martial soul. Ling Xiao frowned. He finally recognized this woman's martial soul. 5 steps snake meant that if a human was bitten by it, they would die within 5 steps. It showed that the snake's bite was extremely poisonous. The venom of this snake was greater than that of a cobra. It was said that those who were bitten by this snake basically died, while those who were bitten by a cobra could be saved. 5-step snake was extremely aggressive and its head could rotate rapidly. It was very scary. This woman seemed to have merged with the 5 steps snake martial soul and possessed the character of a venomous snake. The moment the 5 steps snake martial soul appeared. A venomous ray shot towards the young master of Green Valley. Ding! With Ling Xiao around, it was naturally impossible to let these two people die an unnatural death. He casually threw out 2 stones and blocked the venomous ray in midair. But the 2 stones had been corroded by the venom and instantly rotted. I didn't expect you to be able to block my attack, even though you're only a half-step master. Interesting. The woman did not continue to attack. Instead, she looked at Ling Xiao with interest. I'm surprised that a disciple of the Beast King Palace would casually kill an ordinary person. Your sect's style of doing things is really unflattering. Ever since Ling Xiao was in Sky Cloud City, he did not have a good impression of the disciples of the Beast King Palace. Beast King Palace actually assisted the Blue Eyes clan to attack Sky Cloud City. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of a Sword King sect disciple, Master Bai Yun would have died there. Once Master Bai Yun died, Sky Cloud City would naturally be destroyed. Lin Zhe, Ling Yixue, Dai Yuling, and himself, Ling Xiao, could all die. Shimei, this person, humiliated our sect. Why waste time talking to him? Just kill him. Let's take advantage of the fact that Yuehua School's experts have not arrived. If we occupy this place, it will be our Beast King Palace's credit. So the charming woman's name was Shimei. This name was very suitable for her. At this moment, another disciple of the Beast King Palace who was standing in front of the manor with Shimei spoke. It was obvious that this person was impulsive, but just like Shimei, he was also bloodthirsty. The moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to kill Ling Xiao. This made Ling Xiao's heart turn cold. All right, junior brother Zhang, I'll leave it to you. With your strength, killing him should be easy. Shimei smiled coquettishly and nodded. At this moment, more and more people started to appear around the manor. Among them were disciples from the 12 sects, as well as some disciples from small sects and aristocratic families. These people came to the valley with the same purpose, which was to get a share of the loot. But judging from their cultivation level, they should be inner disciples who were on a mission nearby. Most of them were below Transcendent Realm Level 3. Ling Xiao saw so many people gathered here and made a decision in his heart. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. He would never allow anyone to snatch his credit. This was an opportunity for him. As long as he used thunderous methods to intimidate these people, they would not dare to act recklessly. Until Yuehua School's people arrived, this matter would be considered settled. You really don't know what's good for you. Do you think you can break the seal of our Beast King Palace? Junior brother Zhang from Beast King Palace looked coldly at Ling Xiao. His voice was filled with a strong sense of superiority and dominance. Yan Kai really did not know where his sense of superiority and dominance came from. Was it because of his strength? But this junior brother Zhang's strength was not that great. He was only at the early stage of the Transcendent Realm Level 3, the same level as Chun Zhu A and Shangguan Lei. Chapter 394. How can a disciple of the Beast King Palace be so shameless and overbearing? Others have worked so hard to complete the mission, yet you want to snatch it away. How shameless! Ling Xiao said coldly. Little be asterisk starred. You must be tired of living. Junior fellow apprentice Zhang sneered. Originally, he didn't want to make a move in front of so many people because Ling Xiao was a disciple of the Yuehua School. However, he was in a difficult position now. Ling Xiao had insulted his school in front of so many people. If he didn't do anything, he would be laughed at. At this moment, Shimei chuckled and said, Junior brother Zhang, he doesn't seem to take your threat seriously. Shouldn't you teach this Yuehua School disciple a lesson? Senior sister Shimei, don't worry. Leave this little be asterisk starred to me. You don't have to do anything. Junior brother Zhang's face flushed red. Obviously, he felt embarrassed. He was embarrassed in front of the woman he had a crush on. This made him a little unhappy. He looked at Ling Xiao, and with a wave of his hand, a pair of divine weapons appeared in his hand. They were actually treasured artifacts, beast claws. This sort of weapon was very special. It wasn't made of metal. Instead, it was made directly from the claws of fierce beasts. It was even more terrifying than weapons made of metal. Tell me your name. I don't kill nameless people. Junior brother Zhang shouted coldly. I'm Ling Xiao, an outer disciple of the Yuehua school. I hope you'll remember this name after you die. Come find me if you need to seek revenge. Ling Xiao replied calmly. Ha ha ha, outer disciple? How dare an outer disciple of the Yuehua school be so arrogant? It seems like they're getting more and more arrogant after so many years without anyone teaching the Yuehua school a lesson. Junior brother Zhang was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. The people who were watching the show also burst into laughter. In their opinion, an outer disciple who dared to make a fuss in front of an inner disciple of the Beast King Palace was courting death. Is it that funny? Ling Xiao looked at junior brother Zhang calmly, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. There had been people who had mocked him like this before, but they had either died or lost miserably. Junior brother Zhang, if you're not going to make a move, let me do it. Right at that moment, another Beast King Palace disciple standing beside Ximei spoke up. This person should be slightly older than Ximei and that junior brother Zhang, and his cultivation should also be slightly stronger. Senior apprentice brother Hai, there's no need to fight with me over killing an outer sect disciple, right? Junior brother Zhang said with a smile. That's true. This Yuehua school is the weakest among the 12 sects. Now that he's an outer sect disciple, I don't think we need to do anything. Even my pet can bite him to death. Senior brother Hai said with a smile. These two people actually treated Ling Xiao as a dead man. You talk too much. As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, he had already struck out with his palm. Junior brother Zhang and senior brother Hai from the Beast King Palace were still discussing how to kill Ling Xiao. It was as if they were discussing how to deal with a salted fish. However, all of a sudden, both of them felt a horrifying aura appear out of nowhere. They heard a sorrowful cry in the air. It was as if even the elements in the air were frightened by this palm and started to howl. What a horrifying palm! It was as if it could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. It was filled with an incomparable destructive intent. Senior brother Hai and Ximei were so frightened by this palm that they took several steps back. Junior brother Zhang, on the other hand, was the closest to Ling Xiao. His body was actually frightened by this terrifying destructive intent, and he was so stiff that he couldn't move. What he saw was a hand, but it also seemed to be a sky. Damn it! Junior brother Zhang was terrified. He couldn't understand how an outer sect disciple from the Yuehua school could be so powerful. It was just one palm, but it contained such destructive intent. It was as if he was going to be torn apart. Save me! Junior brother Zhang turned his head with difficulty and shouted at Ximei and his senior brother Hai. However, his voice was hoarse and filled with despair. Even so, Ximei and senior brother Hai should have heard him. Unfortunately, neither of them dared to step forward to save him. The horrifying power of Ling Xiao's palm was beyond their understanding. Was he still an outer sect disciple? Junior brother Zhang was in complete despair. Then, an overwhelming aura of destruction enveloped his body. He felt his body explode in an instant, and everything after that had nothing to do with him. A few pieces of clothes flew between heaven and earth, and there was a strong burnt smell. Drip, drip. Ximei and senior brother Hai's foreheads were dripping cold sweat to the ground. Thump, thump. Their hearts were beating wildly, and their hearts were trembling violently. They could only watch helplessly as a living person died. And he died without a complete corpse. No, he was reduced to dust, and only pieces of clothes were left. Ximei and senior brother Hai didn't expect that the person they thought could be killed by their pets at any time would kill their junior brother. He made them pay a heavy price in blood. You killed him. You killed junior brother Zhang. Are you crazy? He is a disciple of the Beast Palace. How dare you kill him?" Senior Brother Hai mumbled to himself, terrified. In his mind, the disciples of the Yuehua school were like sheep. Even if they were humiliated outside, they wouldn't dare to kill. At most, they would go back to the faction to complain. But today, an outer sect disciple of the Yuehua school had killed his junior brother, an inner sect disciple of the Beast Palace. Therefore, these people were shameless and ridiculous. When they wanted to kill Ling Xiao, they never thought that the 12 sects couldn't kill each other. But now, one of their disciples was killed. They suddenly understood that they couldn't do that. "I know that he is a disciple of the Beast Palace, an inner sect disciple of the Beast Palace, but I killed him." Ling Xiao said with sarcasm and mockery, "Not only did I kill him, but I also killed the two of you. Don't even think about leaving." As he spoke, he took a step forward. However, this gentle step caused Senior Apprentice Brother Hai and Shimei's hearts to tremble, and they both took 2 steps back. "Didn't you want to kill me? Why are you taking a step back? Are you going the wrong way?" Ling Xiao asked mockingly. "You are definitely not an outer sect disciple of the Yuehua school. Who are you? Are you a monster from the demonic empire?" Senior Brother Hai roared loudly, as if this would give him incomparable courage. "How ridiculous! You can't beat me, so you try to slander me. Is this how you Beast Palace disciples behave?" Ling Xiao shook his head and continued to walk forward. The two of them continued to retreat. Plop! Because Senior Brother Hai was retreating in a hurry, he accidentally tripped over a stone. This was ridiculous. A dignified, transcendent realm cultivator tripped over a stone. No one would believe it. Chapter 395. Don't come any closer. Senior Brother Hai shouted as he scrambled to his feet. Senior Brother Hai, calm down. Think about it carefully. This little brat just launched a sneak attack while you were chatting with Junior Brother Zhang. He's not that strong. He must have used some kind of thunderbolt, thunderfireball, or something. As a woman, Shimei was much calmer than Senior Brother Hai. She stopped and stared coldly at Ling Xiao before turning to Senior Brother Hai and saying, Senior Brother Hai also came to his senses at this time. Junior Brother Zhang's death was too tragic and too strange, so much so that he had mistaken the other party for a monster from the true demon empire. Now that he thought about it carefully, it seemed that what Junior's sister Shimei said was true. There was a strange look in Shimei's beautiful eyes. There was a bit of surprise and also a bit of fear. However, she was able to maintain her composure for the time being, because although Ling Zhao's aura had soared to the second layer of the transcendent realm in an instant, if that was all there was to it, she really wouldn't have been afraid. In her opinion, this Ling Xiao was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger and must have learned some kind of special martial skill that allowed him to instantly erupt with power close to the second layer of the transcendent realm. This sudden attack had severely injured Junior Brother Zhang, who had underestimated him and instantly turned him to dust. That must be it. She also admitted that she had underestimated Ling Xiao a little, but the instantaneous eruption of power Ling Xiao had displayed was only around the early second layer of the transcendent realm. Moreover, she firmly believed that this kind of martial skill that could suddenly erupt with such great power would consume a lot of energy and should not be used too many times. Considering all this, she turned to Senior Brother Hai and said, Senior Brother Hai, Junior Brother Zhang's death was due to him underestimating his enemy. This little brat seems to have mastered a terrifying palm technique that can instantly increase his attack power to the early second layer of the transcendent realm. But this is not a reason for us to be afraid. If Senior Brother Hai is afraid, then let me avenge Junior Brother Zhang. This Shimei was really scheming. Her words not only reminded Senior Brother Hai of Ling Zhao's true strength, but also forced Senior Brother Hai to have no choice but to take action. It could be seen that this Senior Apprentice Brother Hai was the same as that Senior Apprentice Brother Zhang. He had also been confused by Shimei. How could he let Shimei take such a risk? Senior Brother, Hai also gradually calmed down. He understood that Xi Mei was instigating him to deal with Ling Xiao. However, this was not something excessive. One had to know that he was a late-stage, transcendent, realm third-level inner disciple of the Beast King Palace, while his opponent was merely an outer disciple of the Yuehua school. His cultivation was only at the half-master level. He had only learned a set of palm techniques that allowed him to unleash a terrifying attack in an instant. As long as he dealt with it carefully, wouldn't killing the other party be a matter of moments? Moreover, this Ling Xiao actually made him lose face in front of his fellow Taoists. If he couldn't kill him, this matter would probably become a stain on his life. That won't do. The fear in his eyes had completely dissipated and was replaced by a frenzied desire to fight and kill. Junior sister, Xi Mei, there's no need for you to deal with an outer disciple of Yuehua school. Senior apprentice brother Hai glanced at Xi Mei and said coldly, "Leave junior apprentice brother Zhang's revenge to me. I want him to know the price he has to pay for killing a disciple of the Beast King Palace." Ling Xiao stood there, his eyes still cold and indifferent, as if the two people in front of him were already dead. "Haven't you discussed the order of death? How about I send you to hell together?" "Little bastard, don't be so arrogant. Do you really think that you're invincible after killing junior apprentice brother Zhang?" Senior apprentice brother Hai roared angrily, and the shadow of a black panther suddenly appeared behind him. The black panther's body was pitch black, and its huge shadow was 7 to 8 meters tall. It stood majestically behind senior apprentice brother Hai and stared at Ling Xiao with its glowing eyes. As the shadow of the black panther appeared, senior apprentice brother Hai's body seemed to undergo some changes. His muscles tightened and the confidence in his eyes grew stronger. Black Panther martial soul? In an instant, his mountain river martial soul told him the answer. This kind of martial soul could give its owner a terrifying speed and attack bonus. Moreover, when a black panther hunted for prey, its ability to find opportunities was also very terrifying. Therefore, Ling Xiao believed that senior apprentice brother Hai possessed 3 abilities the moment he summoned his Black Panther martial soul: speed increase, attack increase, and a powerful ability to find openings. Sure enough, it was as he expected. The martial souls of the Beast King Palace's martial souls were all animal type. It was a pity that junior apprentice brother Zhang died too quickly, and he didn't even have time to summon his martial soul. It was very difficult to know what kind of martial soul he had. However, Ling Xiao's interest in martial souls was getting stronger and stronger. The entire profound world was made up of 13 continents. Just the Heavenly Dragon continent alone had the human races Sacred Dynasty, Ninja Nation, Jade-Eyed Nation, Barbarian Tribe, and many other large and small nations. Under the human races Sacred Dynasty, there are hundreds and thousands of vassal states. Northern Han was only one of the vassal states, and he had already seen many martial souls. Especially after his mountain river martial soul had completely awakened and fused with it, it had brought the human race's golden period of martial soul awakening and inheritance. This period of time wasn't long, but it had still been more than 2 months. During this time, billions of cultivators had awakened their martial souls. Thinking about it, the number of martial souls he would see in the future would probably increase, and they would also be more varied. Divine Prison King Fist, Bullhead Smash. Ling Xiao planned to test out the Black Panther martial soul's abilities first. After all, his opponent was a late-stage, transcendent realm third-layer cultivator. If he attacked without understanding his opponent's abilities, he might end up in a passive situation if he failed to kill him. Therefore, he was only testing his opponent. However, even though he was just testing his opponent, his fist was still powerful. The fist energy blasted out like a thunderclap. In a daze, he seemed to see a bullhead divine object pouncing towards his opponent. Whoosh! In that instant, senior apprentice brother Hai suddenly disappeared. His body turned into an afterimage, and he disappeared at the same time as his martial soul. Although Ling Xiao's palm strike was powerful, it only hit the ground, causing a cloud of dust to fly up. He didn't use his true strength for this palm strike. It was only a half-step, Grandmaster. It was just a test, so there was no need to consume too much true chi. Senior apprentice Brother Hai's disappearance caused a series of surprised shouts. The surrounding disciples exclaimed one after another. Suddenly, senior apprentice Brother Hai's figure reappeared, but this time he was behind Ling Xiao. He held 2 daggers in his hands, which emitted a cold light. The green fluorescence on the daggers was obvious at a glance that they had been smeared with poison. Ding! The daggers stabbed Ling Xiao's body, but the sound of metal clashing rang out. Senior apprentice Brother Hai was stunned for a moment, but then he saw Ling Xiao suddenly turn around and send out another palm strike. Divine Prison King Fist, Horseface Smash! It was still a test. Chapter 396. Senior Brother Hai's movement technique, coupled with the Black Panther martial spirit, was simply unfathomable. Although it was not as good as Ling Xiao's movement technique, it was not far off. If Ling Xiao wanted to completely capture his trajectory, he would have to use a few more moves. Senior Brother Hai was stunned for a moment after his attack failed. He obviously did not expect Ling Xiao's body to be so hard. At that moment, he thought that Ling Xiao might be wearing some kind of defensive treasure. His eyes actually flashed with a hint of greed. However, this greedy look disappeared in an instant, because Ling Xiao's palm wind came again. This palm whistled as the horse's face was faintly discernible. It was actually mixed with a faint neighing sound that disturbed one's mind. "Humph, your speed is too slow. Don't even think about attacking me." A complacent voice came from all directions. Senior Brother Hai once again disappeared in front of Ling Xiao's eyes. That palm once again hit the ground. It actually did not hurt Senior Brother Hai in the slightest. Interesting. This Black Panther martial spirit is indeed similar to what I expected. This guy's speed is astonishing. He can always dodge my attacks and can even disappear into thin air. This should be like a black panther hiding in the dark to hunt for its prey. But how could he disappear? Ling Xiao frowned. He could not understand this point for the time being. There were no spatial fluctuations, which meant that this person was not hiding in another space. Then where was he hiding? Ling Xiao could not help but be excited. The unknown ability of the enemy did not make him the slightest bit afraid. Instead, it made him excited. This kind of battle was more meaningful to study. "Is your speed slow?" Ling Xiao smiled faintly. "Then I will also play with you." Ever since he started practicing the soaring cloud steps, until it was upgraded to the Cloud Dragon Divine Journey, illusory array, there had never been a warrior within 2 realms who could surpass him in terms of movement technique. This senior Brother Hai actually wanted to play with him in speed. At that moment, Ling Xiao moved. His figure turned into several afterimages and separately pounced into the crowd. As expected, Ling Xiao now knew why his opponent had disappeared. Senior Brother Hai seemed to have disappeared strangely, but he used his extremely fast speed to hide in the crowd and then hit his aura. "Competing with me in speed? You're courting death." Ling Xiao's cold voice was like a cold wind from hell, invading Senior Brother Hai's body, causing him to involuntarily shiver. Divine Hell King's Fist, Hellish Twist. In the midst of the chase, Ling Xiao punched out with both fists, one black and one white. 2 fist energies flew out, as if the black and white impermanence had come for Senior Brother Hai's life. Senior Brother Hai turned pale with fright as a burst of true chi gushed out from his body, causing his speed to soar once again as he dodged Ling Xiao's attack. But this time his forehead was clearly dripping with cold sweat. He was not as relaxed as before. Divine Hell King Fist, Ghost King Annihilation. A mocking smile appeared on Ling Xiao's face as he chased after Senior Brother Hai and threw out another punch. This move was a combination of the power of the previous 3 moves. The Ghost King's shadow pounced on Senior Brother Hai along with the fist energies. At the same time, Mock's head, Horseface, and the black and white impermanents attacked from both sides, not giving Senior Brother Hai any chance to dodge. At that moment, Senior Brother Hai felt as if he had seen hell. He saw his own death. Senior Brother Hai cried out in alarm as he increased the output of his true chi, but he no longer dared to attack. Instead, he focused all his true chi on his body movement, desperately trying to escape from this hell-like attack. In the eyes of outsiders, the two of them had already become two afterimages. Only those who were slightly stronger could faintly see the situation. As for those who were weaker, they couldn't even tell who was who. They only heard Senior Brother Hai's cry of surprise and knew that Senior Brother Hai was at a disadvantage. Senior Brother Hai's body was hit and trembled uncontrollably. He fell to the ground and turned into the corpse of a peak level 2 vicious beast. I have heard that the disciples of the Beast Palace are good at linking their lives with their pets and that they would trade their lives for theirs at critical moments. I didn't know that it was true. But this Ling Xiao is horrifying. I can't believe he forced Senior Brother Hai to use this move. I think the battle is about to end. Yes, it's about time. I'm curious to see how many more pets you have to trade for your life. A glint of gold flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. He was already tired of this kind of cat-and-mouse battle, and the speed at which Senior Brother Hai crumbled simply made him thoroughly disappointed. If he were in Senior Brother Hai's shoes, he wouldn't be in such a passive position with his Black Panther martial spirit. What a pity for such a good Black Panther martial spirit. Ling Xiao wore a look of disdain and disgust. Senior Brother Hai was enraged by the look in his eyes. Why, you're just a master warrior, an outer disciple of the Yuehua school. How dare you look down on me? Senior Brother Hai was enraged. He stopped running away. He condensed his true chi into fists, and the Black Panther martial spirit behind him roared like thunder. That's more like it. Ling Xiao stopped as well. A smile crept onto his face. Since you've become so courageous in the last stage, I will use my new move for you. Ling Xiao had always wanted to try the soul die. It was just that he hadn't found the right opportunity until now. But this time he thought he could give it a try. His soul power was strong. He believed that if he could get the right number for the soul die, the attack he could unleash would be powerful. Boom! With a loud explosion, a huge die appeared on top of Ling Xiao's head, and it started to spin rapidly. A moment later, people noticed that the number on the die had changed to 4. It's the 4th ability, Sky Burn. How unlucky. Guys, can you stay away from me? I can't even control this ability. Every point on the soul die represented an ability, or rather a fighting style. However, Ling Xiao didn't like the ability Sky Burn. This ability didn't differentiate between friend and foe. It would burn everything within a 10-meter radius. Fortunately, his ability wasn't strong enough at the moment, so the range was relatively small. Otherwise, it would be more troublesome. Of course, he might be able to control this ability in the future. At the very least, he would be able to control the range of the Sky Burn. As the soul die disappeared, the ability Sky Burn was activated. A huge fireball suddenly appeared in midair. It was like a blazing sun. This is bad. Run. It doesn't matter if he's telling the truth. Let's stay away from him first. The onlookers felt the terror of the fireball. Senior Brother Hai also felt it. However, he had no choice but to release it. His attack had already been formed. If he retracted it now, the backlash would be enough to kill him. Moreover, he knew very well that he couldn't escape. Chapter 397. For Senior Brother Hai, Ling Xiao's terrifying attack. Although it was an attack that did not differentiate between friend and foe, he could feel that he was bound by some kind of power. Other than staying to attack, there was no other way. Senior Brother Hai's feeling was not wrong. Although this ability could not be controlled, Ling Xiao could use other means to bind the enemy. For example, formations, dragon might, and so on. His means were not limited to just one. It only took a moment for the power of burning heaven to completely erupt. At that moment, Senior Brother Hai suddenly understood why Ling Xiao said that the battle should be over. Because this move was not something he could resist at all. That terrifying high temperature burned the surrounding 10 meters into scorched earth in an instant. The ground cracked because of the high temperature, and many animals and plants died. Senior Brother Hai could clearly feel that his move was instantly destroyed by the blazing temperature. Then he felt as if his body was immersed in blazing lava. A sense of fear instantly overwhelmed his whole body. Why did I provoke this fiend? Why? I hate it so much. I regret it so much. Senior Brother Hai let out a final cry in his heart. However, this fear did not last long because in just a moment he completely lost consciousness. In the eyes of the onlookers, Senior Brother Hai's body was rapidly burned, and then completely disappeared. What kind of scene was that? An absolute doomsday scene. The hearts of the onlookers were trembling. What kind of martial art was this? How could it be so terrifying? As Senior Brother Hai completely turned into ashes, Qi Yang also disappeared. Ling Xiao wiped the sweat off his forehead, and a look of shock appeared on his face. To be honest, even he himself felt that it was a little unbelievable. The terror of soul dice was far beyond his imagination. Was this really just a top gold grade martial art? It was simply terrifying. Ling Xiao could not help but be excited. Perhaps this soul dice could become even more powerful. He suddenly thought of a possibility, and that was to fuse his martial soul with soul dice to create an even more terrifying soul martial art. This idea was naturally born from the 9 demons' divine art and the martial spirit inheritance. However, it would be better to slowly study this matter in the future. The number of martial souls he had seen was far too few. If he wanted to find a suitable martial soul for soul dice, he would have to think about it at length. For now, it was better to deal with the matter at hand. Thinking of this, he looked at Chimay. That cold and mocking gaze caused Chimay, who had already fled tens of meters away, to tremble uncontrollably. When Ling Xiao killed her junior brother Zhang with a single palm strike, she could still explain that he had cultivated some kind of special palm technique that allowed him to instantly erupt with power equivalent to an early second layer transcendent realm cultivator, allowing him to kill her junior brother Zhang, who had underestimated him. However, at this very moment, Ling Xiao was not using palm techniques. Furthermore, from the beginning to the end, Senior Brother Hai did not have the slightest intention of underestimating his opponent. In fact, he was extremely serious and gave his all. It was a pity that Ling Xiao was stronger than Senior Apprentice Brother Hai in terms of defense, movement, and attack, especially the last attack. Chimay could not understand what kind of attack it was. There was no true chi fluctuation, but it had produced such a terrifying destructive power. Even now, there was still a strong burning smell within 10 meters of Ling Xiao. The ground was scorched black, and even the stone slabs were burned to ashes. How did he do it? What cultivation level was he at? Was he not human? This Yuehua school's outer disciple is too strong. He said his name was Ling Xiao. Have you heard of this person before? I've never heard of it. The Yuehua sect is the weakest among the 12 sects. Their inner sect disciples are not very famous. Only the top 10 core disciples are slightly famous. The rest are not even worth mentioning. That's not true. I heard that Yuehua School's Golden Light, Heavenly Master, and the Flame Deity have taken in 2 extremely talented disciples. One is called Lung Hao, and the other is called Ming Tian. The higher-ups of our sect have asked us to pay close attention to these 2 people. I know about this too. Apart from the top 10 core disciples, these 2 are the most famous. Who is this Ling Xiao? Is he really an outer disciple of Yuehua School? After seeing Ling Xiao kill Senior Apprentice Brother Hai in a very spectacular and strange way, the surrounding people could not help but discuss after a moment of shock. They were all shocked by Ling Xiao's moves and wanted to know more about Ling Xiao's background. I have some impression of this person. Sure enough, there were many well-informed people in the world of sections. Oh, tell us. This person is indeed an outer disciple of Yuehua school, but his rise is a bit legendary. The person continued, before he entered Yuehua school, he offended the flame deity. After entering Yuehua school, he was naturally suppressed by the flame deity's disciple, Heisua. Then isn't he finished? Finished? No, you're all wrong. He's only been in the Yuehua sect for less than 2 months, but he's already killed the 3rd, 5th, and 6th disciples of the Yuehua sect's outer sect in consecutive life and death challenges. Then he even injured the original outer sect's first disciple, who had already reached the transcendent realm. The more the man spoke, the more excited he became. The most bizarre thing is that he actually killed 2 of Heavenly Venerable Demon Flame's transcendent realm disciples by himself, one of which was the former outer sect number 1. So powerful. Could it be that someone helped him? Some people thought so before, but Yuehua School has an inner sect joint training, just like our sections. This kid participated in the joint training a few days ago, and on the first day he defeated an inner disciple who had used a demonic transformation pill and whose cultivation soared to the early 3rd layer of the transcendent realm. Hearing this, everyone sighed endlessly. There were many geniuses in the sect. However, there had never been someone like Ling Xiao, who was only a half-step grandmaster, who could consecutively defeat transcendent realm cultivators. Xi Mei's face turned green. She regretted not investigating Ling Xiao in advance. If she had known that he was so terrifying, she wouldn't have rashly made an enemy out of him. At the very least, she would have invited a stronger senior brother to back her up. No wonder he could kill junior brother Zhang and senior brother Hai with his half-step grandmaster cultivation. It turns out that he did this in Yuehua School. There must be something strange about this kid. I can't fight him head-on. At this time, Xi Mei had long been scared out of her wits and didn't dare to fight Ling Xiao again. After all, her cultivation was also at the late 3rd layer of the transcendent realm. Her strength might not be stronger than senior brother Hai's. Senior brother Hai had died so miserably, so if she fought Ling Xiao, the result could be imagined. She didn't want to die. With her beauty, in just 1 year, she had absorbed the strength of 4 or 5 cultivators in the 1st and 2nd layer of the transcendent realm, finally breaking through from the early 1st layer of the transcendent realm to the late 3rd layer. Chapter 398. Over the past year, Xi Mei had used all sorts of methods to increase her cultivation. She was very clear that if she died just like that, wouldn't her efforts over the past year be in vain? She couldn't accept such an outcome. However, Ling Xiao's cold gaze made her feel very uneasy. This kid was different from the other Yuehua School disciples. He could really kill her. Le seemed like she could only use the surrounding crowd to pressure this kid. Ling Xiao, it's our fault for secretly pasting the seal of the Beast King Palace on the door of the manor. Now that you've killed my junior brother Zhang and senior brother Hai, and tore apart our seal, are you satisfied? I have no grudges with you, so you don't have to bully a weak girl like me, right? It had to be said that Xi Mei's words were quite convincing. Moreover, she purposely put on a pitiful look, which made the surrounding crowd look at her with sympathy. If these people weren't afraid of Ling Xiao's strength, they would probably have taken action on her behalf. That's right, Brother Ling. She's just a weak girl. There's no need to kill her, right? That's right, Brother Ling. You've already killed 2 disciples of the Beast King Palace. If you kill again, I'm afraid the Beast King Palace will take revenge. Brother Ling, just ask her to apologize to you and say that she's sorry. In an instant, many self-righteous people were pleading for mercy for Xi Mei. They didn't dare to attack Ling Xiao, but they still dared to plead for mercy. Xi Mei's lips curled into a smug smile. In her opinion, under such circumstances, Ling Xiao probably wouldn't dare to offend so many people who were filled with righteous indignation. If anyone wants to die, continue to plead for mercy for her. Ling Xiao's voice wasn't loud, but his killing intent was very thick. In the mountain river realm, The black metal piece kept shaking, and a murderous aura mixed into Ling Xiao's aura. Soon no one made a sound. Ling Xiao nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Mei and said coldly, "Weak girl? Humph. What a nice way to put it. If I was just a little bit weaker, I'm afraid that the person lying on the ground would be me, Ling Xiao. When I attacked you, I didn't consider that you were a weak woman. Now that you're acting pitiful in front of me, it's useless. Then what do you want?" Mei panicked. She never thought that she would be facing such a lunatic. There were more than 1,000 people watching the battle, and this guy actually dared to offend them all. She asked in a trembling voice as she stepped back, "I want you dead," Ling Xiao said coldly as he walked forward. He never killed the innocent, but if someone wanted to kill him, then he would not be merciful. In any case, killing one was still killing 3 was still killing. Since he had already offended the Beast King Palace, why should he worry about the consequences of killing Mei? He didn't want to leave behind a calamity that would harm his family and friends. Hearing Ling Xiao's cold words, Mei's face turned even paler. If it was only crippling her cultivation, she could still accept it. After all, she could cultivate again very quickly. However, once a person died, there would be nothing left. It wasn't easy for her to cultivate to where she was today. She couldn't die. She definitely couldn't die. I'll cripple my own cultivation and never see you again. Can't I do that? Mei shouted loudly. No. From the moment you tried to kill me, you were destined to die. Ling Xiao's voice was very calm, but there was a strong, unquestionable tone. Mei's face turned from pale to red in an instant. It was a kind of angry red. She gritted her teeth and shouted, "Ling Xiao, you'll regret this. You'll definitely regret it. Today, even if I have to pay the heaviest price, I want you dead." After saying that, she suddenly threw a flash grenade into the sky. The colorful flash grenade exploded in the sky and could be seen clearly from hundreds of miles away. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. He knew that she was calling for help. "Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ling Xiao, you're dead." Mei laughed crazily. "You forced me to do this. If you had let me live, I wouldn't have done this." "Is that so? Then I'll kill you first. When your helpers come, they won't make things difficult for me over a corpse, right?" After saying that, Ling Xiao was about to make a move. Suddenly he frowned and floated back. In the sky, a red light flew quickly. Boom! With a loud sound, the red light landed on the ground where Ling Xiao was just standing and created a deep hole. Whoosh! 2 more sounds were heard. Boom! A blue light and a white light landed one after another. They were very fierce. At first glance, one could tell that they were not simple people. The crowd was afraid of implicating themselves, so they all opened up a large space for Ling Xiao and the others. They were just here to watch the show. Although they had some sympathy for Mei, they would definitely not lose their lives because of her. The 3 people who landed on the ground were not disciples of Beast Palace. They were not even disciples of any of the 12 sections. However, they had one thing in common, which was that they were very strong. In the secular world, they were definitely overlords. "Ha ha ha. Mei, I told you that you would need that flash grenade one day. How about it? Did you agree to what I said before?" The person who arrived first was in a red robe. He was in his 50s or 60s, and his hair was also red. He looked very mighty. After he arrived, he did not look at Ling Xiao like the other 2. Instead, he looked at Mei with surprise. Mei's face showed a tinge of disgust, but she quickly hid it. "That's right. Chief 2, Mei has met with trouble today. Someone wants Mei-er's life. If Chief 2 can kill him, I will come to your skeleton stronghold and become your mistress. If I break this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy me." She gritted her teeth and made a vicious oath. "Ha ha ha, no problem, no problem. I told you before, as long as you are willing to become my wife, I will kill the entire family of whoever dares to touch you." Chief 2 laughed loudly, looking very excited. Manor Lord Lin, City Lord Bai, the same goes for the two of you. No matter which one of you can kill him today, I will marry him. She Mei added, Don't you two try to steal from me, or I will kill your entire family too. Chief Tu was very domineering, even a little unreasonable. Humph, you surnamed Tu. You are a peak transcendent realm grandmaster. So are we. Why should we listen to you? Manor Master Lin coldly snorted and said, Mayor has already said it very clearly. Whoever kills her enemy has the qualifications to marry her. If you want the two of us to give up, you have to bleed a little, right? That's right, you surnamed Tu. Do you think this city lord is afraid of you? If you don't have enough benefits, you want us to give up? What a joke. Chapter 399. Ha ha ha, I don't want to waste my true chi on you today. There are too many disciples from the 12 sects here, and it's hard to guarantee that there won't be any strong cultivators. How about this? If you two are willing to stop, I'll give each of you a rare gold grade martial art manual. Although Tu Zhaizhong looked rough, he was no fool. He knew very well that although he was stronger than Manor Lord Lin and City Lord Bai, he wasn't much stronger. It would take at least 1,000 moves to determine the winner. If the two of them joined forces, he definitely wouldn't be a match for them. That would consume too much true chi. Shi Mei was a late-stage, transcendent realm 3rd level cultivator, although her combat ability was far weaker than the three of them. If this girl was afraid of him, he definitely wasn't weak. Therefore, Tu Zhaizhong didn't dare to let his guard down. He had to use all his energy to deal with this person. Otherwise, if he failed, he would be sent to hell like the two trash disciples from the Beast King Palace. Humph, you want to exchange a rare gold grade martial art for Mei Er's virginity? Isn't that too cheap? Manor Lord Lin snorted. That's right, at least 3. City Lord Bai added, How about this? After this kid dies, you two will split his belongings equally. How about that? Tu Zhaizhong said impatiently, Don't push your luck, otherwise I'll really fight you if you piss me off. This kid is just an outer disciple of the Yuehua school. What good things could he have on him? Manor Lord Lin said disdainfully. At that moment, a person walked out from the crowd and cupped his fists. Seniors, this person found a large amount of natural treasures, spirit stone fragments, and divine weapon fragments in the Plague Valley. The value of those things is higher than 2 or 3 rare gold grade martial arts manuals. This person was wearing the Yuehua school's disciple uniform. As a disciple of the Yuehua school, you dare to betray me? Ling Xiao looked at this person and was puzzled. He had never seen this person before and had no enmity with him. This was ridiculous. Humph, Ling Xiao, you don't know me, but I know you. You actually killed the junior sister, Su Ying, that I had crush on. You deserve to die. The inner disciple of the Yuehua school suddenly shouted crazily, I'm no match for you, but justice has a long arm. You've reached the end of your road today. You dared to kill a disciple of the Beast King Palace without permission. You've offended the Beast King Palace. The higher-ups of the faction will not forgive you. Idiot. Ling Xiao was already sick and tired of this person's clamoring, betraying a fellow disciple and still speaking so confidently. He was simply an idiot and shameless. With a wave of his hand, a finger force shot out and instantly killed the inner disciple of the Yuehua school. That man was only a first-order transcendent realm cultivator. How could he possibly block Yang Kai's killing blow? The expression on the man's face before he died seemed to be very surprised. Was he surprised that Ling Xiao dared to kill him? Or was he surprised by how strong Ling Xiao was? Or was he surprised that he had died just like that? Whatever it was, it didn't matter anymore. After listening to the man's words, Villa Lord Lin and City Lord Bai agreed with Village Chief Tuesday too. Mayor is yours. But let me make it clear first. After this brat dies, everything on him will belong to the two of us. It's a deal. Village Chief too was a little regretful. He didn't know that Ling Xiao had so many good things on him. However, this fellow was bent on marrying Shi Mei to be his mistress. Losing a few things was nothing much. Moreover, Shi Mei was an inner disciple of the Beast King Palace. As long as he married Shi Mei, his skeleton village would be connected to the Beast King Palace. Would he have to worry about not having enough good things in the future? Village Chief 2, you better be careful. This brat is a little strange. His cultivation isn't high, but he was able to easily kill my junior brother Zhang and senior brother Hai. More importantly, his moves are a little strange. Shi Mei hurriedly warned Village Chief 2 when she saw that he was about to make a move. She didn't want Village Chief 2 to die because he underestimated his enemy. The three of them were Shi Mei's last supporters. If they weren't a match for Ling Xiao, then Shi Mei would definitely die. Therefore, there were some things that she had to remind him of. I've seen your senior brother Hai before. He's not bad, but he's still a far cry from me. Village Chief 2 stopped underestimating his enemy. He had once sparred with senior brother Hai, and it took him a total of 50 moves to defeat him. Moreover, the process wasn't easy. He even suffered some minor injuries. If you're afraid, then get out of my way. I don't care if you're a village chief, city lord, or villa lord. If you stop me from killing Shi Mei, then you have to die. So, take advantage of the fact that I haven't decided to kill you all yet and get out of here. Just as Village Chief 2 was thinking about Shi Mei's words, Ling Xiao suddenly spoke. Little brat, what did you just say? Village Chief 2 thought that he had heard wrongly. No one had ever dared to speak to him in such a manner within a few hundred miles. With his strength, even if he wanted to destroy a city, it would be very easy. This brat actually dared to speak to him in such a manner. Was he crazy? I said get out of my sight if you don't want to die. I don't have time to deal with trash like you. Ling Xiao's voice was calm, but his aura suddenly gushed out. This aura was indeed that of a half-step master, but it was filled with a strong murderous aura. How many people has this brat killed? Village Chief 2 frowned, but then he shouted coldly, Your murderous aura is indeed powerful. You must be quite capable to be able to kill Shi Mei's junior brother and senior brother. However, they were just trash without much combat experience. I'm different. So what? Do you really want to die? Ling Xiao asked. Brat, didn't your master tell you not to be too arrogant? Village Chief 2 said coldly. To be honest, it's really rare for you to be able to kill those two trash with such a cultivation. I really can't bear to kill you. As for today's matter, apologize to Mayer and we'll call it a day. How about that? Are you done with your nonsense? Ling Xiao's voice was still cold and indifferent. There was no emotion in his voice, as if he was talking to a dead man. Arrogant. Today, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your sex higher-ups. Village Chief 2 was really pissed off. The reason why he didn't make a move immediately was because he was afraid of the Yuehua school, not Ling Xiao. However, this brat in front of him didn't give him any face at all. This made him furious, and his murderous aura rose. Master Ling, this skeleton stronghold master, isn't a good person. Their skeleton stronghold even colluded with that demon general before, deceiving many martial artists and slaughtering many innocent civilians. At this moment, the Green Valley young master shouted loudly. Oh! Ling Xiao's lips finally curled into a smile. Village Chief 2, it's too late for you to leave now. As he spoke, he took another step forward and closed in on Village Chief Tuesday. His murderous aura kept surging out of his body, and the surrounding air became cold and gloomy. Chapter 400. Leave? Do I need to leave? You're such an ungrateful thing. Novel. La. Chief 2 suddenly looked fiercely at Green Valley's young valley master and said, You brat over there, just you wait. I'll kill this Yuehua school trash and slaughter your Green Valley. Let's see if you can still speak. Young Valley Master, don't be afraid. This two guy is dead for sure today. There's no need for that skeleton stockade to exist anymore. Ling Xiao's voice was not that fierce, but his words were resolute and decisive, revealing a strong sense of confidence. "Thank you, Master Ling." Green Valley's young valley master couldn't tell who was stronger, but Ling Xiao had saved them. In their eyes, Ling Xiao's status was comparable to a god. "Kid, this is your first time leaving the sect to carry out a mission, right?" Chief Tu suddenly wasn't as angry as before. Instead, he became extremely calm. However, there was an unconcealable, killing intent in his eyes. "So what?" Ling Xiao said indifferently. "No wonder." Chief Tu sneered. "In the sect, if you make a mistake, your master and brothers will protect you. But outside, if you make a mistake, you will die." "Of course I know that. The 2 disciples of the Beast King Palace made a mistake and they died. I understood this principle even before I entered the sect." "Ha ha ha! Since you understand this principle, you should understand that outside, strength is everything," Chief Tu said with a laugh. "In other words, the disciples of the Beast King Palace sealed the manor because they felt that they were stronger than me, so they could take my credit?" Ling Xiao asked. "That's right. The rules outside are not as complicated as the rules in the sect. There has always been only one, and that is strength." Chief Tu nodded. "Only those with great strength can set the rules. Your strength is stronger than those 2 trash from the Beast King Palace. Kill them and take back the credit that belongs to you. This is the rule. And I am stronger than you. Kill you and take your credit. This is also the rule. So that's how it is. I didn't expect the outside world to be simpler than I thought." Ling Xiao did not waste any more words. He raised his hand, and the ice dragon sword appeared in his hand. "It's actually a treasure sword. Listen up, the 2 of you, this thing belongs to me." Seeing Ling Xiao's ice dragon sword, Tu Xiaozhu's greed rose once again. However, this was perhaps the only time he was greedy before his death. This was because the moment he turned around, an ice-cold sword chi had already pierced his throat. As if it had been calculated, when he turned his head back, the sword chi arrived as expected. This sword was extraordinarily fast. This sword was as cold as ice. This sword was a sword that could take a life. Its name was Flying Snow, and it was Ling Xiao's fastest sword strike. Tu Zhai still had a greedy smile on his face, and there was no change in his expression. However, his life force was quickly draining away. He heard the young man opposite him saying something. "I like this rule." Everything that happened after that had nothing to do with him, because he was already dead and had completely lost his vitality. The creditor of Skeleton Stronghold, who had been unhindered for decades and killed people like scything flax, was actually killed by such a young man. The entire place was terrifyingly silent. No one, including Villa Master Lin and Governor Bai, had seen how Ling Xiao had stabbed out with his sword. There was not even the slightest bit of qi, as if it was a sword of death that suddenly bloomed in that instant. What terrifying strength! The surrounding crowd watched as Ling Xiao casually pulled out a long sword and casually stabbed out. The creditor of Skeleton Stronghold, who had been rebuking the heavens and earth for decades, lay on the ground, completely cut off from this world. They naturally knew how terrifying that sword strike was. It was a pity that their cultivation was not high enough and their eyesight was not good enough, so they could not see that the sword strike was from Fanghua. They were very glad that they knew their limits and did not help she made deal with Ling Xiao. Otherwise, the one lying there would not be 2 Zhai but them. Villa Master Lin and City Lord Bai were already kneeling on the ground. Their bodies were like leaves in the autumn wind, trembling nonstop. They were the 2 people with the highest cultivation here, although they could not completely understand the mystery of Ling Xiao's sword strike. But they could feel how terrifying that sword strike was. They knew very well that the 2 of them had no chance of surviving that sword strike. Therefore, they did not have any thoughts of escaping at all. It was impossible for them to escape in front of this young man. Everyone was afraid of the strong, especially when the other party was so strong that you could not even think of resisting. Then you could only beg for your life. Resisting That would only make you die faster and more miserably. Why are you kneeling there? Stand up and pick up your weapons. Didn't you want to kill me? You can do it now. If one person can't do it, 2 people working together will do. Ling Xiao looked at the 2 overlords who were kneeling on the ground with disdain. These were the people who dominated the secular world, but now they were so small and ugly. They were kneeling in front of him, just like that, which made him unable to show any respect. Grandmaster Ling, we were blind and failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please spare our lives. In the future, we will go through water and tread on fire for you without hesitation. Villa Master Lin said hurriedly. That's what I meant too. City Lord Bai said hurriedly. Ha! A mocking smile appeared on Ling Xiao's face as he said disdainfully, If I remember correctly, the 2 of you seem to be fighting with this damn dog to kill me, right? You're a real man and used to be an overlord. How can you not admit what you've done? Aren't you making a fool of yourself? Villa Master Lin and City Lord Bai heard Ling Xiao's words, and their bodies trembled even more violently. Ling Xiao was right. They did not take Ling Xiao seriously just now. They even fought to kill Ling Xiao in order to fight for Ximei. Kneeling here at this moment was really not what real men should do. But so what if they were not real men? Even if they lost all their face today, as long as they could live, they were willing to do anything. Master Ling, we were blind. As long as you're willing to spare our lives, we'll do anything. Villa Master Lin gritted his teeth. He had completely lost today. In order to live, he was willing to lose face. Yes, Master Ling. Please tell us. City Lord Bai had the same attitude. Ling Xiao ignored the 2 of them. Instead, he turned around and asked the young Valley Master of Green Valley, How are these 2 people? I haven't heard of them doing anything too evil. The young Valley Master of Green Valley replied. Ling Xiao nodded slightly. It seemed like these 2 people were different from Skeleton Stockade's Master Tuesday. Perhaps they had been bewitched by that seductive woman, Ximei, which was why they did such a stupid thing today. If that was the case, then he could spare the lives of these 2 people. Chapter 401. The woman Ling Xiao was referring to was Ximei. In the end, everything that had happened today was because of this woman. Not only was she vicious, but she was also very cunning. She was also very good at bewitching people. If she was left alive, she would be a disaster sooner or later. It was better to get rid of her as soon as possible. As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, Villa Lord Lin and Governor Bai stood up and looked at Ximei with killing intent in their eyes. Although killing Ximei might offend the Beast King Palace, that was a matter for the future. If they did not kill Ximei, both of them would die. They had to die now. The choice was very simple, and there was nothing to hesitate about. I will only give you 10 breaths of time to kill this woman. As for the skeleton stockade, you will have 1 day. If you can't do it, the 2 of you will die. I, Ling Xiao, always keep my word. Ling Xiao snorted when he saw that the 2 of them were still hesitating. As soon as he said this, the 2 of them suddenly exploded with a strong fighting spirit. Then they attacked Ximei from both sides. To them, Ximei was just a woman. If they killed her, then so be it. What they wanted was to live. Even though Ximei was unwilling, she fought back. However, both Villa Lord Lin and Governor Bai were stronger than her. After 3 to 5 moves, she was lying on the ground in despair. She looked at the blue sky and regretted her initial actions. She was used to being domineering and thought that she could do whatever she wanted with the support of an expert. She did not expect that she would kick an iron plate and meet Ling Xiao today. From the moment she tried to kill Ling Xiao, her tragic fate was already decided. All right, the 2 of you go and destroy the skeleton stockade now. Don't forget the time limit I gave you. Ling Xiao did not even look at Ximei's body. He just waved his hand and black flames engulfed Ximei's body, turning it into ashes. Of course, before that, he had already absorbed the martial spirits of the 3 disciples of the Beast King Palace into the Mountain River realm. Other than the Black Panther martial spirit, The other 2 martial spirits were given to the immemorial golden dragon to absorb. The Black Panther martial spirit was still useful for the time being. Combined with the cloud dragon divine travel, it would make him even faster. It wouldn't be too late to let the primordial golden dragon devour it when he found a better martial soul in the future. Go. Manor Master Lin and City Master felt as if they had been granted amnesty. They hurriedly left the Green Valley and prepared to destroy the skeleton stronghold. Ling Xiao didn't tell them that the plague seeds had been implanted in their bodies. If they didn't do as Ling Xiao said, then Ling Xiao wouldn't even have to do it himself. All he had to do was detonate the plague seeds, and the 2 of them would die. Their lives were in their hands. It all depended on whether they knew how to behave. After watching Manor Lord Lin and Governor by leave, Ling Xiao went to the front of the manor and placed an alchemy erase stone on the door. He didn't expect someone to be so shameless. Now he naturally had to be prepared. Since you're all here today, let me remind you, you can come to the Green Valley, but if you want to steal my Yuehua school's achievements, then you'll end up like those 3 disciples of the Beast King Palace. Ling Xiao coldly glanced at the crowd and said, I've already set up a spirit array around the entrance. Anyone below the Transcendent Realm 4th layer will be killed by the plague poison. Don't say I didn't warn you. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao and sighed in their hearts. Although this person was overbearing and killed the disciples of the Beast King Palace as he pleased and destroyed the skeleton stronghold as he pleased, who asked him to be so strong? In the mystic world, the weak had no right to speak. The weak existed only as stepping stones for the strong, as slaves as hard labor, or as tools for the strong to vent their anger. Ling Xiao used his half-step Grandmaster cultivation to easily kill the disciples of the Beast King Palace and City Master Tuesday. He had already displayed his absolute strength. So what if he was a little arrogant and overbearing? What's more, this person wasn't unreasonable. Everything he did was reasonable and orderly, so no one could find fault with him. Speaking of which, many people were even grateful to Ling Xiao from the bottom of their hearts. Among the people killed by Shi Mei, there were many of their friends and relatives. Moreover, the skeleton stronghold had killed even more people. The disciples who came here to carry out missions had more or less been exploited by the skeleton stronghold, and it was unlikely that the sect would destroy the skeleton stronghold for a 1st or 2nd layer Transcendent Realm cultivator. What's more, City Master 2 of the skeleton stronghold looked rough, but he was actually very cunning. Half of the things he plundered were handed over to the various sects. No matter how few mosquitoes there were, they were still meat. Therefore, the nearby sects turned a blind eye to the actions of the skeleton stockade. Just like that, Ling Xiao resolved the dispute with lightning speed. Peace returned to the Green Valley. Now, all he had to do was wait for the people from the Yuehua school to arrive. On the other side, Manor Lord Lin and City Lord Bai didn't act according to Ling Xiao's instructions. They actually tried to persuade their friends to join forces to kill Ling Xiao. However, just as the 2 of them were gathering their friends to discuss countermeasures, their bodies suddenly exploded, and the plague's deadly poison wreaked havoc throughout the venue. The dozen or so people who attended the meeting were all 2nd to 3rd layer Transcendent Realm cultivators, but all of them died. These people didn't even know what kind of person they were trying to kill. In the end, they lost their lives without even knowing what was going on. Those 2 really aren't good people. People who can easily kill others for their own survival are also easily betrayed. Ling Xiao coldly snorted, leapt up, and headed towards the skeleton stronghold alone. Only an hour later, he returned from the skeleton stronghold. At this time, the skeleton stronghold was already a sea of fire. Besides the slaves and women who had been captured, all the bandits of the skeleton stronghold had been killed. Not a single one was left alive. The wealth that the skeleton stronghold had accumulated over the years was all in Ling Xiao's hands. This skeleton stronghold was really quite rich. actually having a total of 20,000 low-grade spirit stones. Unfortunately, there were no mid-grade or high-grade spirit stones. In addition, there was also a huge amount of gold and silver. What made Ling Xiao the happiest was that he had also obtained 5 treasure-grade artifacts from the skeleton stronghold. In this way, adding the treasure-grade artifacts he had obtained from Wan Yanjun, Chanzue, the Plague Demon King, Shimei, and City Lord 2, he had a total of 10. Of course, the gold bricks were also included. It was a pity that the best artifacts Manor Lord Lin and City Lord Bai had were only fine-grade artifacts. He really didn't put them in his eyes and planned to send them to the Divine Sword Sect. As for the martial spirits of these people, he didn't take a fancy to any of them and gave them all to the ancient golden dragon to enjoy. The stronger the ancient golden dragon was, the stronger his soul would be. Moreover, when he entered the human dragon form and the ancient golden dragon form, his combat strength would be even more terrifying. The martial spirits weren't wasted. Chapter 402. Ling Xiao did not plan to use the treasures that he had seized. Instead, he planned to use them all to fuse with the Celestial Star flying swords. His Celestial Star flying swords were all fine treasures. At this stage, their quality was obviously too low. After returning to the Green Valley, Ling Xiao found a few corpses lying in front of the manor. He could not help but sneer. He had already warned those people not to enter without permission. There were actually people who were not afraid of death. He casually turned the corpses into ashes. Otherwise, it would be easy to breed a plague. Then he entered the manor and began to smelt the flying swords. Anyway, he had to wait for the experts from the Yuehua school to come. It was a waste of time to waste, so he might as well continue to increase his combat strength. His main body was used to smelt the flying swords. One of his 2 sword soul doppelgangers continued to cultivate the 12 golden lotus arts, while the other began to cultivate the heavenly dragon divine finger. Currently, he had already cultivated the snow lotus sword art and divine hell king fist to the last move. If he wanted to reach perfection, he only needed to practice in battle. There was no need to cultivate. The heavenly dragon divine finger was his only dragon clan martial art. Moreover, its power was astonishing. He had to speed up his cultivation. Otherwise, after entering the immemorial golden dragon form, he would not have any martial art skills to use. As for the soul dice and the shadow sword art, he could put them aside for now. After all, there were always priorities. In fact, when he was annihilating the skeleton stockade, Shangguan Lei had already returned to the Yuehua school and reported the discovery of the stronghold of the Plague Demon King, one of the 9 demon kings of the true demonic empire, to the higher-ups of the sect. During this time, Shangguan Lei concealed the fact that the Plague Demon King was killed by Ling Xiao. He only said that the Plague Demon King had gone berserk during his cultivation and was discovered by them, because this matter was too shocking. Even if he told the truth, no one would believe him. Instead, they would say that he was deliberately exaggerating Ling Xiao's contribution. Perhaps because the discovery of the Plague Demon King's lair in the true demonic empire was too shocking, the higher-ups of the sect did not delve into the matter of the Plague Demon King's escape. After all, the true demonic empire that was thought to have completely disappeared tens of thousands of years ago had actually secretly revived. This matter was bound to cause a stir in the entire Sky Dragon continent. When the true demonic empire ran rampant on the heavenly dragon continent, there were still Grotto Heaven realm powerhouses in the Yuehua school. But now the once powerful sect had declined and become a mediocre sect in the mystic world. Back then, even the Yuehua school could not contend against the true devil empire, let alone now. Once the true devil empire rose again, no one would be able to stop their ferocious attacks. The Yuehua school and the other 11 sects would be trampled to death by the true demon's army. How could this news not be shocking? How could Yuehua school not take this seriously? Therefore, after a discussion among the higher-ups of Yuehua school, they finally sent 4 inner sect elders to lead the elite inner sect disciples to Green Valley. This kind of formation was enough to show the importance of this matter. Success! A total of 10 precious grade celestial star flying swords are finally completed. With this, the power of my imperial sword technique will be greatly increased. Ling Xiao looked at the 10 precious grade celestial star flying swords and was very happy. Even among the Yuehua school's inner sect disciples, there was no one who owned so many precious grade celestial star flying swords. As an outer sect disciple, at least in terms of weapons, he was above the inner sect disciples. As for the 10 core disciples, he did not know much about them. However, it was still very rare for one person to own more than 10 precious grade celestial star flying swords. Ling Xiao hurriedly put away all the celestial star flying swords. This was because he felt a powerful aura coming from dozens of miles away. Among the 4 powerful auras, he was very familiar with one of them. It seemed to belong to Wang Han Tianzuan. It seemed that the people from the Yuehua school had arrived first. Otherwise, if the people from the Beast King Palace arrived first, he would have to run. After all, he was not invincible. It would be very troublesome if he encountered a cultivator above the transcendent realm 4th level. Not to mention that the inner sect elders were all heaven realm experts. Greetings, elders. Ling Xiao walked out of the manor. After waiting for a while, he saw 4 figures descending from the sky. He slowly cupped his hands and bowed. Among the people who came, one of them was Wang Han Tianzuan. She was still wearing a mask, but it was not as fierce as the Desperation Tower's master's mask. Her aura was not only familiar, but also intimate. Ling Xiao suspected that Wang Han Tianzuan was here to support him. As for the other 3, Ling Xiao had seen one of them before. It was the Golden Light Heavenly Master who had accepted Lung Hao as his disciple. This person was still as domineering as ever. His every move exuded the aura of a powerhouse. There were 2 other people that Ling Xiao was unfamiliar with. However, the 2 of them were dressed in a very special way. The color and style of their clothes were different from the other 2 elders. There was a crescent-shaped blade on their backs, and 3 words were written below it, Law Enforcement Hall. These 2 were the supreme elders of the Law Enforcement Hall. The aura of each of them was not inferior to that of Wang Han Tianzuan and the Golden Light Heavenly Master. In fact, they were even slightly stronger. The 2 of them did not look old, as if they were in their 30s. However, their actual age was probably more than 200 years old. Their strength was unfathomable. In the Yuehua school, the 5 supreme elders of the Law Enforcement Hall were even more powerful than the head teacher. And these 2 were 2 of them. Others might look at the 2 of them with respect and fear. But the 2 of them were different. However, Ling Xiao was infuriated. It was the 5 supreme elders of the Law Enforcement Hall who had taken sides and protected the flame deity. They had even suppressed his master, the Yuan Venerate in the Moonlight Pagoda. How could he not be angry? However, deep down he knew that his strength was inferior to theirs, so he had to endure for now. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to escape death. Wang Han Tianzuan had probably come this time because he knew that these 2 supreme elders did not like Ling Xiao. After all, Ling Xiao was someone who often broke the rules in the Yuehua school. The old fogies of the Law Enforcement Hall did not like such people. Apart from Wang Han Tianzuan, the other 3 elders did not pay any attention to Ling Xiao. Instead, they led the elite inner sect disciples straight into the manor. Everyone, please wait. Ling Xiao said. Ling Xiao, how dare you stop the elders from entering the manor? What are your intentions? Said He Suo, one of the elite inner sect disciples. This time, even the core disciple Meng Yuan had come. It seemed like these 2 people were very indignant that Ling Xiao had survived while Wan Yinjun and Chen Zui had died. Thus, they had come to pick a fight. As he spoke, He Suo threw a punch at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao sneered but did not meet it head-on. Instead, he hid beside Wang Han Tianzuan. There was no need for that. The reason he had stopped them was for their own good. After all, there was still the plague bone dissolving array at the entrance of the manor. Since He Sua did not know what was good for him, why should he meddle in other people's business? Chapter 403. Ling Xiao just quietly watched He Sua act pretentious, without the slightest intention of stopping him. Just as that idiot stepped within 5 meters of the manor, his expression suddenly changed. A terrifying aura made him kneel on the spot, and the plague poison spread into his body, causing him to howl miserably. He had no choice but to sit down cross-legged to expel the poison. I've already said. Everyone, wait a moment. It seems that this senior brother He Sua thinks he has a long life and doesn't care about this junior brother's reminder? Ling Xiao sighed and looked at He Sua with schadenfreude. He originally didn't plan to deal with He Sua at this time. Who knew that this guy would seek death? What could he do? Humph. Seeing this scene, Elder Jean, one of the grand elders of the law enforcement hall, coldly snorted and directly jumped into the plague bone-dissolving formation. This formation, indeed, couldn't do anything to him, but it wouldn't be so easy for him to rescue He Sua. Not only that, but the longer he entered the plague bone-dissolving formation, the uglier Elder Jin's expression became. The plague poison was like a maggot in his bones, and he couldn't get rid of it no matter what. Although he could easily resist it by relying on his powerful true essence, it was simply impossible to dissolve it. Brat, you've done a good thing. This time you've made the grand elders of the law enforcement hall lose face. Wang Han Tianzuan secretly transmitted her voice to Ling Xiao. This disciple is really wronged. This formation was set up purely to block the disciples of other sections. Who knew that the two of them wouldn't listen to me? Ling Xiao also transmitted his voice with a bitter smile. Wang Han Tianzuan was secretly pleased. That day, the 5 grand elders of the law enforcement hall attacked her and the old hall master Yang Danlin. They were injured because of it, and she still felt very uncomfortable in her heart. Seeing Elder Jean suffer today, how could she not be happy? Grand elders, please withdraw first. Everyone, just follow this disciple into the manor. This formation was originally used to prevent the disciples of other sects from trespassing into the manor. Ling Xiao thought to himself, you guys didn't take me, an outer court disciple, seriously. Now you guys are suffering, right? You deserve it. However, he still didn't want to offend this law enforcement elder right now, so he immediately jumped into the formation and walked through the plague bone-dissolving formation in a special way. The rest of the people followed him into the manor, and as expected, nothing happened. Elder Jin's face flushed red, but he was a person who cared about his reputation. Naturally, he wouldn't argue with a mere outer disciple like Ling Xiao. Even if he wanted to make a fuss, he would secretly make things difficult for Ling Xiao. He would definitely not do it openly. After all, he could not afford to lose face like that. He Sua was also rescued by Meng Yuan from the plague bone-dissolving formation. However, the plague poison could not be resolved. Ling Xiao would not help him detoxify the poison. If he died, then he deserved it. However, He Sua shouldn't die. There are 4 inner sect elders here. Even if they relied on pure Jinyuan, it should be enough to force out the plague poison from He Sua. In the end, it was Elder Jin who saved He Sua. It could be seen that this Elder Jin's relationship with the flame deity was not shallow. Little guy, you have to be careful. Elder Jin is the flame deity's master. He Sua can be considered his grand disciple. Wang Han Tianzuan secretly transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao, informing him of this situation. Ling Xiao secretly thought that it was no wonder that the 5 law enforcement elders of the law enforcement hall would side with him. After all this time, the law enforcement hall's head, Elder Jin, was actually the flame deity's master. Wasn't this the legendary snake and rat nest? The 4 inner sect elders led the elite inner sect disciples to search the entire manor, even the Green Valley. However, they did not find anything useful. Even the plague demon king's treasury that had been completely emptied by Ling Xiao was not found. In fact, even if they found it, it would be useless. Among this group of people, there was no one who was proficient in formations. It was simply impossible to open that treasury. Therefore, the fact that Ling Xiao had stolen all of the Plague Demon King's treasures, at least for a period of time, would not be known by anyone. However, as the person who had completed this mission, Ling Xiao was still interrogated like a criminal. After all, Wang Yanjun and Qin Zue were both dead. Shangguan Lei said that he had fainted and did not know what had happened. Therefore, the only person who knew what had happened was Ling Xiao alone. It was actually very normal that he would be interrogated. Therefore, Ling Xiao had already thought of a countermeasure and how to answer. Ling Xiao, how do you explain Wang Yanjun and Chen Zue's deaths? Elder Jin asked, his attitude very strict. Ling Xiao replied very seriously, reporting to Elder Jin. This disciple was only focused on completing the mission and did not pay attention to how senior brother Wang Yan and senior brother Qin Zue died. It was only after defeating the Plague Demon King that I discovered the unconscious senior brother Shangguan and saved him. What nonsense! Did you kill Wang Yanjun and Chen Zue and then collude with the Plague Demon King? Before Elder Jin could speak, Meng Yuan rushed to shout from the side. Who do you think you are? You have no right to interrupt the Grand Elder's question. Wang Han Tianzuan angrily scolded Meng Yuan. Could it be that this is how your master taught you? To interrogate people who have contributed to the sect like criminals? Meng Yuan's face alternated between red and white, but he did not dare to refute. He did not care about Ling Xiao, but he could not care about Wang Han Tianzuan. This woman was a lunatic. She could even injure his master, let alone him. Enough, Guang Han. He is just concerned about his fellow disciples. Elder Jin waved his hand and blocked Wang Han Tianzuan's terrifying aura from Meng Yuan. Elder Jin, could it be that you mean Ling Xiao is not a disciple of the Yuehua school? When I came here, I heard that he was almost killed by the disciples of the Beast King Palace in order to protect this manor. You can't be so biased. Wang Han Tianzuan coldly looked at Elder Jin and said, Ahem, Guang Han, don't worry. We just want to clarify things. We will never wrong a good person, and we will never let a bad person go. After all, this involves the true demon's empire, so we must be careful. Another elder of the law enforcement hall, Elder Tu, coughed twice and said, this matter better be fair. Otherwise, together with the previous matter, I will definitely seek justice from the sect master. Wang Han Tianzuan coldly snorted and no longer spoke. Elder Jin also did not want to have internal strife, so he looked at Ling Xiao and asked, Ling Xiao, you don't have to be afraid. Just answer a few of my questions. Supreme Elder, please ask. This disciple will tell you everything he knows. Ling Xiao said respectfully, Okay, let me ask you. You are just an outer disciple with the cultivation of a half-step master. Why did you complete the mission in the Green Valley, but Wang Yanjun and the others failed? And from the beginning to the end, you did not show any signs of injury? Elder Jin's tone became heavier and heavier, and there was even a tendency to be aggressive. Also, what's with the array formation outside the manor? That should be the Plague Demon King's most proficient plague bone formation, right? How did you set it up? Chapter 404. Ling Xiao's expression was still very indifferent, facing Elder Jin's interrogation. He didn't show the slightest hint of nervousness, because the more nervous he was, the more likely he would say something wrong. What's more, he hadn't done anything wrong, so he wasn't afraid of ghosts knocking on his door in the middle of the night. However, there were some things he had to hide for the time being. Let's talk about the mission first. Ling Xiao replied slowly. The reason why the three of them failed is actually very simple. Not only were they weak, but they were also too stupid. They knew that the Plague Demon King was proficient in plagues and spirit arrays, but they didn't bring a pill to resist plagues, nor did they invite a disciple who was proficient in spirit arrays to accompany them. What shameless boasting! Do you think you're stronger than them? That's right. Ling Xiao nodded, full of confidence. Ha ha ha, is this little brat crazy? He actually said he's stronger than Wan Jun. Wan Jun is a peak third layer, transcendent realm cultivator. I'm afraid he's being interrogated, so he doesn't know how to answer, so he's just spouting nonsense, right? A moment later, the crowd burst into laughter. These inner sect disciples were all elites. Even the weakest among them was an early third layer transcendent realm cultivator, so they naturally looked down on an outer sect disciple. Ling Xiao ignored their ridicule and continued to answer. As for the spirit array outside the door, it was indeed arranged by this disciple, but I only used the Plague Demon King's original Plague Bone dissolving array, so it wasn't difficult. When this disciple was in the Yuehua school, I learned spirit arrays from the Spirit Array Hall. Unfortunately, my talent in this area is quite good. This senior can testify to this. This boy was even able to discover the flaw in Guanghan Temple's spirit array and kill 2 traitorous disciples who trespassed on Guanghan Temple. Wang Han Tianzuan said, "Speaking of which, the flame deity wanted to kill this boy because of this matter." All right, even if this matter is true, you saying that you're stronger than Wan Jun, Chen Zue, and Shangguan Lei is simply unbelievable. Elder Jean frowned. Supreme Elder, having a high cultivation doesn't mean I'm strong. Ling Xiao didn't want to explain too much, because the more he said, the easier it would be to expose his flaws. Now he only needed to prove that he was stronger than Wan Jun, and that he was good at arrays. Then he could explain why he was able to complete the mission. As for Wan Jun and Chen Zue's deaths, there was no evidence. Unless Elder Jean was shameless enough to pin this crime on him, there was no need to worry at all. Therefore, at the end of the day, there was only one key problem. Was he, Ling Xiao, stronger than Wan Jun, a peak transcendent realm third layer cultivator? As long as he could prove that he was stronger than Wan Jun, then all the doubts would be solved. No matter how suspicious Elder Jean and the others were, they wouldn't be able to find any evidence, and they wouldn't be able to target Ling Xiao. Don't forget, there was still Wang Han Tianzuan here. She wouldn't allow Elder Jean and Elder Tu to mess around. As for Heavenly Sovereign Golden Light, he was clearly completely neutral, not helping either side. Shangguan Lei didn't come with them this time, but he had already been questioned when he was in the sect. That guy described Ling Xiao as a powerful existence comparable to a core disciple. Not only had he helped them a lot, but he had also saved him in the end. Unfortunately, the enemy was too strong, so Wan Jun and Chen Zue were killed in the end. Shangguan Lei had discussed this with Ling Xiao, but what he said was a little exaggerated. Neither of them was willing to mention that Wan Jun and Chen Zue had betrayed Yuehua School. Although this was a fact, if the two of them poured dirty water on the dead, they would be despised and doubted by many people. If they didn't want to cause trouble, they naturally couldn't say anything. Originally, the sect's elders were very skeptical of Shangguan Lei's words. But now that Ling Xiao had said the same thing, if Ling Xiao was really strong and he was also good at alchemy and spirit arrays, then he might really be as powerful as Shangguan Lei said. Supreme Elder, since this boy is boasting shamelessly, why don't you let this disciple test his strength? He Suo originally had a grudge against Ling Xiao, and in addition, he had been tormented to death by the plague bone-dissolving formation that Ling Xiao had set up. He Suo's anger just happened to have nowhere to be vented. Now that Ling Xiao said he was stronger than Wan Jun, he could seize this opportunity. He Suo, you are an early-stage transcendent realm fourth-layer cultivator, much stronger than Wan Jun. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to test him, right? Wang Han Tianzuan frowned, reporting to Wang Han Tianzuan. Since Ling Xiao said he could complete the task alone, it stands to reason that his strength alone should be stronger than Wan Jun, Chen Zue, and Shangguan Lei combined. This disciple is at most slightly stronger than the 3 of them combined. He Suo said with a smile, "You can't say that. If the 3 of them can't work together, they might be weaker than one person." "How can you say that?" Wang Han Tianzuan said. "Guang Han, how about this? This king makes a suggestion. There is no need for Ling Xiao to defeat He Suo, as long as he can last 50 moves under He Suo's hands. He will pass, how about it? Elder Jean really didn't believe that a mere half-step grandmaster, no matter what kind of terrifying martial skill he cultivated, could really be a match for an early-stage transcendent realm fourth-layer cultivator. He had lived for more than 200 years and had never heard of such a thing. It was normal that he hadn't heard of it, because Ling Xiao wasn't a half-step grandmaster. He was a peak second-layer transcendent realm cultivator. He had only used the mountain river martial spirits model to hide his cultivation. This, Ling Xiao, what do you think? Wang Han Tianzuan looked at Ling Xiao and asked, as long as the elders approve, this disciple naturally has no problems. Ling Xiao smiled and nodded, but do you really intend to let this He Suo take action? Back in Sky Cloud City, he was already defeated by me. That's because you used despicable and shameless methods. Every time the past in Sky Cloud City's White Cloud Monastery was mentioned, He Suo felt half of his body in pain. At that time, he had used his terrifying strength to trample all the experts in White Cloud Monastery, including Grandmaster Bai Yin, under his feet. However, facing Ling Xiao, who was only at the 8th level of the martial vein realm, he had suffered a huge setback and almost died there. Ling Xiao was like a demon in his heart, a hurdle in his path of martial arts. He couldn't wait to kill Ling Xiao and cut off this demon so that he could open up the barrier in his path of martial arts. However, he had not expected that he had secretly sent people to deal with Ling Xiao, but in the end they were all resolved by Ling Xiao, which made him feel even more frustrated. Even his master, the flame deity, was seriously injured because of this kid and was still recuperating. Despicable? Don't tell me that when you meet an enemy outside, you still have to beg for a fair fight? What a joke! You're an elite among the inner disciples. Chapter 405. Ha ha ha! This little brat is amazing. He's already disturbed He Suo's mind before the battle even began. Now, this senior is beginning to believe that he completed the mission alone. It's even possible that he killed the Plague Demon King and didn't escape. Heavenly Senior Golden Light suddenly laughed. Ling Xiao didn't explain anything. In fact, the reason why he didn't say he killed the Plague Demon King was because he didn't want to be too troublesome to explain. If the elders of Yuehua School thought so, he might as well admit it. He had also thought about it. The key to open the true Demon Empire's treasure trove wouldn't be of much use to him if he kept it for himself. Such a key required 9 of them to open the treasure trove, so it was better to rely on the sect's strength to search for it and then reap the benefits. So he planned to find a reason to hand it over to the sect so he could accumulate some sect points. Killing the Plague Demon King and obtaining this key was the best reason, so he didn't even need to search for it. Golden Light, don't joke around. According to Shangguan Lei's description, the Plague Demon King strength was probably around the early stage of the transcendent realm 4th layer. Although it's still far from its peak, Ling Xiao shouldn't have been able to kill it. Elder Jean said disdainfully. He didn't believe anything Ling Xiao said, so how could he believe that Ling Xiao had killed the Plague Demon King? Hearing this, Ling Xiao didn't say anything. Next, he was going to battle with He Suo. After this battle, he believed that Elder Jean wouldn't doubt his ability. Ha ha ha, this senior was just guessing. Supreme Elder doesn't need to be angry. There's no need to be angry. Heavenly Senior Golden Light laughed. Humph, it's best not to joke around like this. At this point, Elder Jean looked at Ling Xiao and said, Ling Xiao, it's not too late to tell the truth now. Otherwise, once He Suo attacks, you won't be able to last more than 50 moves. Then, we'll definitely capture you. No matter what method we use, we'll find out what happened from you. Thank you for your concern, Supreme Elder. However, Disciple is speaking the truth. If you want to be concerned, then you should be more concerned about Senior Brother He Suo. This isn't a spar. If Disciple accidentally kills him, I hope Supreme Elder won't blame me. Ling Xiao said indifferently, Life and death is up to fate. There's no need for you to hold back. Just use the same method you used on the Plague Demon King to deal with He Sua. Elder Jean seemed to be full of confidence in He Sua. He then looked at He Sua and said, "You too. There's no need to show mercy." After that, he secretly sent a voice transmission to He Sua. "This seat has shamelessly found this opportunity for you. Don't miss it. Kill this kid and avenge yourself and your master. I understand." He Sua was extremely excited. The opportunity was here. The opportunity to kill Ling Xiao had actually come so quickly, so much so that he couldn't believe it. Of course, he would not waste this opportunity. Ling Xiao must die. This was what the enforcement hall's supreme elder said. Even if he killed Ling Xiao in front of so many people, there wouldn't be any problems. The underground palace had once again turned into a battlefield. But this time, there were many more spectators. Other than the 4 inner sect elders, the rest of them were all inner sect elite disciples. Ling Xiao slowly walked towards He Sua. In that instance, He Sua's eyes shot out 2 beams of substantial cold glare. That was a vengeful glare. That was a furious glare. These 2 glances pierced through the many obstacles between the 2 of them, like a sharp knife stabbing into Ling Xiao's body. Ling Xiao also looked at He Sua. That year when he was in Sky Cloud City's Baiyun Monastery, he had once sworn that he would definitely kill He Sua. He Sua had forcefully snatched Ming Tian from Grandmaster Baiyun and even attempted to kill him. At that time, Ling Xiao didn't have the strength to kill He Sua. In the end, he relied on an unusual method to severely injure He Sua. Coupled with the sudden appearance of the Soul Race's experts, he managed to escape death. Today, Ling Xiao had the strength to kill He Sua. He wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity. This wasn't a life and death challenge, but it was better than a life and death challenge. He Sua's strength was perhaps even stronger than the Plague Demon King. The Plague Demon King's vitality was greatly damaged. Without a body, his strength was naturally greatly reduced, and he didn't have a suitable weapon in his hands. He Sua was different. He was an inner sect elite disciple of the Yuehua sect and had a standard set of weapons. One was a treasure-level weapon. One was a treasure-level auxiliary Dharma treasure, and one was a treasure-level defensive Dharma treasure. Strictly speaking, He Sua's cultivation was at the early 4th level of the Transcendent Realm. His actual combat strength was definitely stronger than his cultivation. However, Ling Xiao was still fearless. In the past 2 days, not only had his cultivation broken through to the peak 2nd level of the Transcendent Realm, he had also refined 10 treasure-grade astral flying swords. Coupled with the completion of the 9 demons' divine art, Plague Demon King, his strength was far greater than before. Even if he didn't use his dragon form, he had a 50% chance of killing He Sua. An aura gushed out of Ling Xiao's body and grew larger and larger. This aura was cold and piercingly cold. Behind him, the faint image of a glacier appeared. Facing He Sua, Ling Xiao was confident, but he didn't dare to be careless. From the beginning, he used the mountain river Martial Soul's glacier force. At this moment, He Sua felt as if the one walking towards him wasn't Ling Xiao, but a towering glacier. It was cold and filled with biting cold. What a powerful martial soul! Sensing the glacier aura released by Ling Xiao, the Yuehua school inner disciples couldn't help but shiver. This kind of coldness could even pierce through their protective Jin Yuan, causing their souls to feel a great threat. At this moment, they suddenly understood that Ling Xiao wasn't bragging. This kid's strength was far more terrifying than they had imagined. Although his cultivation was weak, the aura of his martial soul completely made up for the gap in cultivation. With every step Ling Xiao took, the pressure of the glacier increased. The entire underground palace seemed to be shrouded in a layer of ice. Some of the weaker inner disciples had no choice but to retreat to a place farther away where there was less cold air and continue to watch the battle. Seeing Ling Xiao approaching him step by step, Heisua's eyes revealed a biting, cold, murderous intent. Boom! With a loud explosion, a ball of burning ghost fire appeared behind Heisua. The blue flame continued to rise, growing larger and larger. Its blazing temperature approached the chill of the glacier. In terms of momentum, they were evenly matched. Ghost fire martial soul? This was rare. Ling Xiao had always hoped to obtain a martial soul that surpassed ordinary flames, mainly for alchemy. Although Heisua's ghost fire martial soul couldn't compare to the 12 divine flames, it was much stronger than ordinary flames. If he could obtain it, he wouldn't have to worry about not having a suitable flame for alchemy in the future. Furthermore, this ghost fire martial soul was relatively rare. It might be useful in battle. Chapter 406. Heisua didn't know what Ling Xiao was thinking. The ghost fire behind him kept burning. Today, he would use Ling Xiao's blood to cut off his inner demons and go further on the road of martial arts. The onlookers' eyes were fixed on the field. At first, they thought that the battle was just a child's play and might end in a moment. But now they found that the battle might be very exciting. Ling Xiao did make a move, but once he did, he could bring such a terrifying aura, which made them both surprised and expectant. Finally, it wouldn't be a boring battle. Ling Xiao, how dare you? Suddenly, Elder Jean shouted from the crowd. His powerful aura enveloped Ling Xiao. You actually dared to hide your cultivation. What are you trying to do by staying in the outer sect? The terrifying aura of a celestial realm expert was like a terrible thunderbolt, which directly hit Ling Xiao, who was confronting Heisua. The aura suddenly shattered the shadow behind Ling Xiao, and his aura stagnated, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Ling Xiao was confronting Heisua with all his strength, and all his energy was focused on his opponent. He didn't expect that the highest elder of the law enforcement hall would sneak attack him so shamelessly. Although it was just an aura, it was wrapped in the powerful, genuine essence of a celestial realm expert, which completely suppressed his aura. At the same time, Heisua took advantage of the situation, and the hot aura emitted by the ghost fire seriously injured Ling Xiao. As a result, Ling Xiao was already severely injured even before the battle began. The inner gate disciples and even the other 3 elders were stunned for a moment, and they looked at Elder Jean with a complicated look. Wang Han Tianzuan stood up in anger. Elder Jean, you are despicable and shameless. You are the elder of the law enforcement hall of Yuehua School. Last time you took sides, but this time you sneak attacked a junior. Do you want to lose your face? Humph. Ling Xiao hid his cultivation and deceived the sect. I'm just giving him a small punishment. Elder Jean snorted coldly. At this time, Ling Xiao's voice suddenly sounded, and there was a bit of disdain in his cold voice. Elder Jean, if you want to help your grand disciple, you can just kill me. In any case, my strength is weak and I am not your opponent. A dignified grand elder, a senior who has lived for more than 200 years, actually uses such a despicable method to deal with a disciple. How shameless. I don't understand how a shameless person like you can be the head of the law enforcement hall. You are the shame of Yuehua School. As soon as Ling Xiao finished his words, all the elite inner court disciples who were watching were dumbfounded. They were completely dumbfounded. This brat really didn't want to live anymore. How arrogant. Was. Even if the other party was the Yuehua sect's grand elder and the first seat of the law enforcement hall, he still did not show any mercy and scolded the other party as despicable and shameless. Elder Jean was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. His pupils suddenly contracted and he stood up with a "who" sound. Just as Ling Xiao said, he just wanted to find an excuse to help Heisua. He thought that Ling Xiao would not dare to say anything if he did that. How would an outer gate disciple dare to go against the highest elder of the sect? He probably would not even dare to let out a fart. But he was wrong. Ridiculously wrong. Ling Xiao was not the kind of person who would remain silent after being bullied. This kid was more arrogant than he thought. He was even more daring. Bastard! What did you say to me just now? Elder Jin's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He was the highest elder of Yuehua School, the head of the law enforcement hall. Even the head teacher would not dare to teach him a lesson. A mere outer gate disciple, a junior, actually dared to point at him and scold him. If he did not kill this kid, would he still be able to sit as the head of the law enforcement hall in the future? Elder Jin, you don't need to scare a little outer gate disciple like me. You said that I was hiding my cultivation. Haha. Even if that is the case, then may I ask highest elder, which rule in Yuehua School states that disciples cannot hide their cultivation, and which rule states that a disciple must be promoted to an inner gate disciple after reaching the transcendent realm. Ling Xiao said coldly, Highest elder, what arrogance! Do you think you can distort the truth just because you are a highest elder? Ah, that's right, I am hiding my cultivation. So what? As he spoke, Ling Xiao removed the mask he had been using, and the aura of a peak second layer transcendent realm cultivator emerged. At that moment, most of his injuries were healed. When the fifth layer of the heavenly dragon golden body was cultivated to the extreme, he could be reborn from a drop of blood. Even if Ling Xiao was unable to do so, it was very easy for him to recover from his injuries. Peak second layer transcendent realm cultivation. At that moment, Wang Han Tianzuan was shocked. Golden Light, Heavenly Senior, was shocked. Elder Jin and Elder Tu were shocked at the same time. The other inner gate elite disciples looked at Ling Xiao in disbelief. This cultivation was not strong, but the problem was that when Ling Xiao entered the sect, he was only at the peak of the 8th layer martial vein realm. He had only been in the sect for 2 months, but he had already reached the peak second layer transcendent realm. What kind of aptitude was this? What kind of talent was this? In front of him, Lun Hao and Ming Tian were nothing. The reason why Ling Xiao revealed his cultivation now was because he had his own plans. Elder Jin of the Law Enforcement Hall was obviously unhappy with him because of his relationship with the flame deity and wanted to teach him a lesson. If he wanted the other elders of the sect to protect him, he would have to display extraordinary talent. For the current Yuehua school, the value of a supreme elder was definitely not comparable to a super genius. Elder Jin had lived for more than 200 years, and his cultivation had been stuck in the heaven realm for more than 100 years. He basically had no future. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, was different. In just 2 months, he had broken through from the 8th layer martial vein realm to the peak of the 2nd layer transcendent realm. If he was given a few more years, he might even surpass Elder Jin and break through to the paradise realm. If the Yuehua school wanted to change its situation and shake off the impression that it was the weakest of the 12 sects, it had to produce a grotto heaven realm powerhouse. With the talent Ling Xiao had displayed, he would definitely become the focus of the sect's protection. Furthermore, Ling Xiao had not betrayed the sect. He had only cursed the despicable and shameless Elder Jin. The rest of the upper echelons of the sect would not ignore a super genius just because of this matter and allow Elder Jin to harm him. Ling Xiao, who had released the aura of a peak second layer transcendent realm cultivator, did not stop talking. He looked coldly at Elder Jin and continued. A dignified supreme elder, a senior of the Yuehua school, and one of the referees of this battle, actually plotted against a disciple because of a personal grudge. Your actions are not just shameless. They are shameless to the extreme. Shameless to the extreme. As for the other 3 elders, don't you feel ashamed sitting together with this despicable and shameless old thing? Chapter 407. When the onlookers heard Ling Xiao's words, they actually agreed in their hearts. Because what Ling Xiao said was right. There was no rule in the sect that required disciples to hide their strength. There was also no rule that required disciples to join the inner sect after breaking through to the transcendent realm. A dignified grand elder, and a law enforcement elder at that, actually didn't even know the sect's rules and used this reason to plot against an outer sect disciple. This wasn't just inappropriate. It was just as Ling Xiao had said, shameless to the extreme, and stupid to the extreme. However, although most people agreed with Ling Xiao's statement, they didn't dare to speak out as boldly as Ling Xiao. They knew very well what the consequences of offending the law enforcement hall's head would be. Of course, there were those who didn't dare to offend Elder Jean, but there were also those who dared to speak up for justice. Wang Han Tianzuan had already recovered from the shock of Ling Xiao's cultivation. She sneered and said, "Haha," using a groundless reason to attack an outer sect disciple. The law enforcement hall's head is really overbearing. How awe-inspiring. No wonder people say that the current Yuehua School's law enforcement hall is already above the sect master. Her words were full of sarcasm. Elder Jin's old face trembled several times. He originally just wanted to let Ling Xiao understand the consequences of offending him. At the same time, he also wanted to help He Suo and let him get rid of this brat cleanly. However, never had he imagined that this kid, Ling Xiao, would actually be so audacious. Every single word Ling Xiao spoke caused him to lose all face, and he didn't have the face to face the others present. He was a hypocrite. Naturally, he cared about his old face. At this moment, he even wanted to find a mouse hole to crawl into. Asterisk bang bang. Asterisk, a muffled sound exploded. Because of Elder Jin's anger, he actually caused the thick stone slabs on the ground to collapse. His eyes were fixed on Ling Xiao, and he couldn't wait to kill Ling Xiao on the spot. Wang Han Tianzuan stood up. Heavenly Venerable Golden Light also stood up. Even Elder Tu hesitated for a moment before standing up as well. What do you want? Can't this king kill an outer sect disciple who insulted a supreme elder? Elder Jean naturally knew what these three people meant, but he still refused to bow his head because of his status as the law enforcement hall's head. This king has always been clear about rewards and punishments. This king has repeatedly insulted this king and violated the sect's rules. This is an unforgivable crime. I am enforcing the rules of the sect. Are you going to stop me? Elder Jin's voice was cold and overbearing. After sitting in the first seat of the law enforcement hall for a long time, he had always been decisive in killing. Naturally, this person would have some hostility, and he would not even put the rest of the sect in his eyes. Ha ha ha! Elder Jean, if he was just an ordinary outer sect disciple, you could have just killed him to vent your anger. But as you saw just now, his cultivation has already reached the peak of the second layer, transcendent realm. To be able to reach such a terrifying cultivation level in just 2 months, this talent is really a great blessing for the Yuehua sect. I'm afraid you can't kill this person. Heavenly Venerable Golden Light originally planned to not help either side, but Ling Xiao's talent excited him, so he decided to protect Ling Xiao. Elder Jean, if you dare to kill Ling Xiao today, I will kill all of your disciples and grand disciples. Yuehua School doesn't belong to you alone. Yuehua School doesn't belong to you. You can't do whatever you want. Wang Han Tianzuan's voice was piercingly cold. This king may not be your opponent, but none of your disciples will live, including the seriously injured the flame deity. Guang Han, you're really shameless. Elder Jin's expression changed drastically, and he said coldly, You're Wang Han Tianzuan, a Heaven Realm Master, and you want to kill a seriously injured person, and those juniors. Who's more shameless? Wang Han Tianzuan couldn't help but say coldly, You're a Grand Elder, and you're shamelessly attacking an outer court disciple. But you think this king is shameless to kill your disciples? Elder Jean, is your brain really rusty? Indeed, Elder Jean was more shameless and shameless. Hearing Elder Jean and Wang Han Tianzuan's words, many inner court disciples looked embarrassed. You're the head of the law enforcement hall, so you're domineering and awe-inspiring. You can kill whoever you want, but you won't let others kill your juniors. Isn't this too shameless? You can even say such things. Elder Tu looked embarrassed. He had a very good relationship with Elder Jean. Last time, it was Elder Jin's suggestion that the other 4 elders of the law enforcement hall helped to save the flame deity. Last time's matter was still acceptable. It was to protect the flame deity, a genius. But this time it was a little too shameless. Head, can we put Ling Zhao's matter aside for the time being? After we return to the sect, the higher-ups will discuss it and make a decision. Let's deal with the matter at hand first. In the end, Elder Tu spoke up. If Elder Jean continued to cause trouble, their Yuehua school would probably have internal strife here. When that time came, the other sects would be waiting to see them become a joke. The Yuehua school wasn't strong enough to begin with, and now it wasn't united either. It really made people sigh. This king will give you face. It's not that I'm afraid of them. Elder Jean saw that the other 3 elders were dissatisfied with his actions, so he naturally couldn't continue to be stubborn. He took advantage of Elder Tu's words to step down. In any case, he wasn't in a hurry to kill Ling Zhao. He had plenty of opportunities to do so. After returning to the sect, wouldn't this brat be at his mercy? No, this brat was already injured. Even if his cultivation was at the peak of the 2nd level of the Transcendent Realm, he definitely wouldn't be He Sua's opponent. He was probably going to die today. He wouldn't even have to wait until he returned to the sect. Thinking of this, he felt a little better in his heart. He didn't need to do anything. He Sua would be able to resolve this grudge for him. Ling Zhao, can you still fight? Heavenly Exalt Golden Light asked. He was now very concerned about Ling Zhao. It felt like he was overly concerned. Anyone could see that he wanted to accept Ling Zhao as his disciple. Otherwise, why would he suddenly treat Ling Zhao so well? Yes. Ling Zhao nodded. No matter what Heavenly Exalt Golden Light's intentions were, he was helping him now, so he naturally had to give this inner sect elder face. All right then. In that case, you guys can start fighting. If anyone wants to sneak attack, this king will protect you. Heavenly Exalt Golden Light smiled and sat back down. Elder Jean coldly snorted. He naturally understood that Heavenly Exalt Golden Light was talking about him. But was there a need to sneak attack? He didn't believe that Ling Zhao could really be a match for He Sua. Ling Zhao's gaze fell on He Sua again. When he confronted Elder Jean just now, He Sua didn't participate. Although he wanted to see Ling Zhao killed by Elder Jean, he didn't want to. In his heart, he really wanted to kill this brat with his own hands. However, Ling Zhao's sudden eruption of the peak of the 2nd level of the Transcendent Realm forced him to take him seriously. Chapter 408. In fact, facing Ling Zhao's peak 2nd layer Transcendent Realm cultivation, He Yi was quite surprised. Novel, La He Sua wasn't afraid. In fact, he even felt a little relieved. Before, Ling Zhao's combat strength had puzzled him greatly. The unknown was the most terrifying. However, although Ling Zhao had displayed peak 2nd layer Transcendent Realm cultivation, the secret behind his strength had been revealed. Everything was clear at a glance, so He Sua naturally felt relieved. He would let everyone know what the consequences of offending him were. He would also do as Elder Jean wished and kill Ling Zhao here and now. He would help Elder Jean dispel the resentment in his heart. In that instant, He Sua released his aura once again, and the blue ghost fire behind him even emitted a crackling sound. His entire body seemed to be enveloped by a dark blue flame. Wang. On the other side, the glacier phantom behind Ling Zhao condensed once again. Facing an inner sect elite disciple, He Sua, an early 4th layer Transcendent Realm Master, Ling Zhao didn't dare underestimate him. Life and death were often separated by a single thought. Underestimating one's enemy would come at a heavy price. A peak 2nd layer Transcendent Realm cultivation is indeed very strong. Coupled with your powerful martial spirit at the true soul stage, you might actually be stronger than Wan Yen Jun. He Sua looked at Ling Zhao proudly and said in a very arrogant tone, "However, if that's all you have, you're not qualified to make me fight, because Wan Yen Jun couldn't even last 3 moves against me. They're only fit to be my dogs." I've heard such words countless times. I hope you're different from those people, and are only good at talking. Ling Xiao looked at He Suo indifferently and replied before taking out his ice dragon sword. Against He Suo, he wouldn't be able to gain an advantage even if he was unarmed, because He Suo also had a treasure-grade artifact in his hand. It was a long black whip that looked like a poisonous snake and was also burning with a blue flame. Arrogant. Since that's the case, I'll show you what a fourth-layer Transcendent Realm Cultivator is like. I'll let you know what despair is. He Suo snorted coldly. He suddenly took a step forward with his right foot. His figure quickly approached Ling Xiao. At the same time, the black whip in his hand shot out like a poisonous snake. The second style of the Snow Lotus sword technique, water fusion. Ling Xiao also took a step forward and waved the long sword in his hand. A strange chill immediately appeared around his body. At the same time, ripples of water covered his surroundings like sticky mucus. Pa! A loud and clear slap was heard, and immediately a strong wind blew in all directions. The black whip had already smashed a long and narrow groove in the ground. At the same time, Ling Xiao retreated more than 10 steps. Slightly frowning, Ling Xiao looked at the groove in the ground. It wasn't just the result of a true essence bombardment, but also the result of being burned by flames. This He Suo really had some skills. He could clearly sense that the wisp was both hot and cold. The combination of the two produced an astonishing power, because one couldn't tell if the wisp's attack was hot or cold. It was easy to fall prey to it. It looks like senior brother He Suo is stronger. As expected of an elite inner sect disciple, it was just a probing move, but Ling Xiao couldn't block it. Isn't that obvious? Although the peak second layer Transcendent Realm isn't weak in the inner sect, it's still far from the early fourth layer Transcendent Realm. The crowd of inner sect disciples saw this scene and began discussing among themselves. Ling Xiao's aura was very strong, perhaps even stronger than Wan Yinjun's, but facing He Suo, he was still at a disadvantage. Haha, it looks like the one with a sharp tongue isn't me, but you. It was just a probing move, yet you couldn't block it. It looks like you'll really have to pay for your lies with your life today. He Suo looked at Ling Xiao, his eyes filled with disdain and his tone filled with arrogance. Is that so? A dignified early fourth layer Transcendent Realm Cultivator actually couldn't hurt a mere peak second layer Transcendent Realm Outer Sect disciple. Shouldn't you feel ashamed? Yet you're still so proud. Is that all you want? Why would Ling Xiao care about He Suo's attack? He originally only wanted to check He Suo's situation through this exchange. Although they had fought in Sky Cloud City's White Cloud Temple, He Suo hadn't even used his martial spirit at that time. In this battle, his cultivation was much lower than He Suo's. So if he didn't use his dragon form, he would have to take advantage of his opponent's weakness and win in one fell swoop. Listening to Ling Xiao's words, it seems to be true. An early fourth layer Transcendent Realm Cultivator actually couldn't hurt a peak second layer Transcendent Realm Cultivator. This is indeed a bit unreasonable. Senior brother He Suo really doesn't have the qualifications to be proud. That's right, this Ling Xiao is indeed extraordinary. Being able to avoid He Suo's attack already shows his superb judgment and outstanding movement skills. The crowd began discussing again. As inner sect disciples, they naturally hoped that He Suo could win. But if this battle was too boring, there was no point in watching. So it was better to have a good fight. Interesting. Since that's the case, let me see how many of my attacks you can dodge. He Suo didn't want to bicker with Ling Xiao because he found that no matter what he said, Ling Xiao would always refute him, making him feel very embarrassed. So he planned to end this battle quickly. As long as he dealt with this guy, he would naturally shut his mouth. However, before he could even attack, Ling Xiao's attack had already arrived. In front of his eyes, a glacier seemed to fly towards him, and this glacier seemed to be composed of countless sharp ice swords, exuding a biting cold, murderous intent. He Suo couldn't help but frown. This killing intent seemed to have turned into a substance as it directly cut into his body, causing him to feel intense pain. Flying snow. Ling Xiao Ice Dragon sword trembled, and combined with the power of the glacier, the sword move was even more powerful. It tore through the air and made a sharp whistling sound, which was incomparably violent and overbearing. The glaring sword chi directly pierced through the tip of the ice dragon sword and condensed into a sharp sword chi, piercing towards He Sua's vital point. Destroy! He Sua roared. On top of the black whip, true essence crazily swallowed, and then the ghost fire martial spirit behind him quickly rotated. A ball of dark blue flames wrapped around the whip and faced Ling Xiao's sword chi. Hua! The biting cold sword chi of the glacier was instantly melted by the flames and disappeared into nothingness. After destroying Ling Xiao's sword chi, He Sua's attack still did not stop. He was not willing to give Ling Xiao any chance to counterattack. The black whip turned into an afterimage and pierced towards Ling Xiao's neck. However, Ling Xiao's expression did not change. He stabbed out diagonally with his sword, and a dazzling light flashed out in an instant, sending the black whip flying. Chapter 409. Although the blue ghost fire had burned the ice dragon's sword with a light flick of Ling Xiao's hand, it disappeared without a trace. It did not cause the slightest bit of damage to him. However, He Sua was obviously not satisfied with the end of this attack. After being blocked by Ling Xiao, his next attack came again. Ghost Fire 3 Styles, Flame Rush. A cold light flashed through the black rope, and the long whip actually shot up from the ground at a very strange angle. A wave of fire energy shot out from the long whip, striking towards Ling Xiao's abdomen. Wind Celestial Phenomenon, Melting Water. It was the same sword technique, but with the power of the celestial phenomenon, it immediately displayed a completely different effect. The originally viscous ripples of true essence actually began to spin violently, like a violent tornado. The blue flame was like a firefly in a gale. It was directly swept in and then disappeared without a trace. The sword chi continued to attack, affecting He Sua, forcing him to take 2 or 3 steps back. In the end, this series of attacks and defenses ended with Ling Xiao winning by a bit. He Sua was slightly stunned for a moment. He was extremely angry in his heart and said coldly, "Good! Ling Xiao, I admit that you are stronger than Wan Yinjun and indeed have the qualifications to fight with me. However, that is only the qualifications. Just now it was still just a test." As he spoke, He Sua swung his black whip. The whip swept past the ghost fire martial spirit and actually split it into 7 parts. These 7 ghostly flames were like 7 strange lanterns that flickered with flickering light, sometimes cold, sometimes hot. It gave people the feeling as if they had entered hell, and all the hairs on their bodies couldn't help but stand on end. 7-star ghost fire lamp. I never thought that this Ling Xiao would actually be able to force senior brother He Sua to use the 7-star ghost fire lamp. This time, I'm afraid Ling Xiao will be in trouble. Yeah, once senior brother He Sua uses the 7-star ghost fire lamp, he will be serious. He was just playing around just now. The inner disciples began to discuss amongst themselves again. After all, the 7-star will-o-wisp lamp was rarely used even in the inner disciples' sparring sessions. Once it was used, the opponent would definitely face the fate of defeat. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said, "Senior brother He Sua's 7-star ghost fire lamp is indeed dazzling. I just don't know if it's really useful. Flashy, but impractical things are really not that interesting. We'll know once we try." He Sua snorted coldly. "Is that so? Looks like I, your junior brother, need to get serious. Otherwise, wouldn't it be too boring?" As he spoke, another shadow appeared behind Ling Xiao. It was a black leopard. It was crawling on the glacier, and its eyes were filled with vigilance. Ling Xiao's aura suddenly became stronger. The power of the fusion of 2 martial spirits was indeed extraordinary. That unstoppable aura was actually on par with the might of the 7-star will-o-wisp lamp. The terrifying aura produced by the confrontation of the two auras spread out. The 4 elders didn't react, but the elite inner disciples could feel their bodies alternating between hot and cold. It was extremely uncomfortable. However, at this moment, they were unwilling to leave. The more it was like this, the more exciting the battle would be. How could they be willing to leave just like this? Interesting. Now I admit that you are indeed qualified to make me use my full strength. You can barely force me to use 50% of my strength. If you die too quickly, it would be too boring. I want you to collapse in pain. You talk too much nonsense. Ling Xiao looked at He Suo indifferently and said, "If you have time to talk nonsense, why don't you think about how to win? Otherwise, if you die on the spot, it won't look good for Elder Jin's face." This He Suo was really arrogant. He was just an early transcendent realm 4th layer cultivator. Yet he acted as if he had already broken through to the heaven realm. He was always talking about whether others were qualified or not, as if he could control the overall situation. How laughable! Even with his mountain and river martial spirit, Yang Kai didn't dare say he could control the overall situation. After all, many cultivators had near-death attacks, which were simply impossible to predict. He Suo's arrogance really disgusted Ling Xiao. "Don't worry, I won't let you die so quickly. I'll definitely torture you well. I'll make sure you can only beg for mercy with that mouth of yours." He Suo's voice trembled slightly. His anger had almost made him lose his mind. A cold voice came out of his mouth, one word at a time. 7-star will-o-wisp lamp, darkness. As his voice rang out, the underground palace, which originally had some light, suddenly turned completely dark. Asterisk pa 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 pa. Asterisk with 7 consecutive sounds, 7 will-o-wisp lamps lit up one after another, forming the shape of a spoon in the sky. Then He Suo flicked his whip and the 7 will-o-wisp lamps disappeared again. However, Ling Xiao could feel that they hadn't disappeared, but were instead rapidly approaching him through the darkness. Asterisk gulp. Asterisk the inner disciples watching the battle swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This kind of oppression and fear was truly unbearable. In the pitch-black battlefield, they couldn't see anything. It was as if they had been swallowed by a terrifying giant beast. Ling Xiao stood there quietly, unable to feel the slightest bit of aura from his body. It was as if his entire body had suddenly disappeared. The sword in his hand was still in his hand, but he didn't move at all. However, suddenly within the black curtain, 7 flames suddenly appeared. With a biting, cold, killing intent and terrifying power, they separately attacked Ling Xiao's 7 vital points. Ling Xiao's sword also suddenly swung out at this moment. Rain celestial phenomenon, congealing water. After this sword strike, where Ling Xiao's sword danced, a torrential rain actually fell. Before the rain fell to the ground, it had already condensed into tiny ice beads. Then, under the guidance of the ice dragon sword, it enveloped the 7 will-o-wisp lamps with an earth-shattering aura. Bang, 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 the will-o-wisp lamps shattered one by one, and then the black curtain suddenly lit up. With an unstoppable aura, the ice beads pierced towards He Suo along with the ice dragon sword's sharp whistling sound. He Suo's eyes revealed a hint of shock. However, the shock quickly disappeared. After that, the 7 will-o-wisp lamps appeared once again. However, this time they did not appear in front of Ling Xiao, but in front of He Suo. The 7 will-o-wisp lamps formed a circle, and then spun faster and faster. The faint blue flames actually formed a huge fireball, wrapping around He Suo. The air was scorched to the point that it emitted a burnt smell. Ling Xiao's congealing water sword and the countless ice beads struck the fireball formed by the faint blue flames, producing crackling sounds. Then, the ice beads shattered one after another, but they were unable to pierce through the fireball. How can the 7-star will-o-wisp lamp be destroyed so easily? Its attack is extremely powerful, and its defense will also cause you to despair. Hei Suwa revealed a complacent sneer. It's useless. With the defense of the 7-star will-o-wisp lamp, I am in an invincible position. Today, you will definitely die. Chapter 410. Ling Xiao looked at the blue fireball. Lathe fireball completely wrapped around Hei Suwa, leaving not a single gap. The cold and hot flames merged, forming 2 layers of solid defense. His attack was completely blocked by the fireball. Hei Suwa said that this was an absolute defense, a defense that made Ling Xiao feel complete despair. Once it was used, Ling Xiao, would not be able to break through it. The corner of Ling Xiao's mouth raised into a disdainful sneer. The frog sat at the bottom of the well, never able to see the entire sky. How many attacks had Hei Suwa seen that he actually dared to say that his defense was absolutely perfect? Absolute defense? Today, I will break it for you to see. Ling Xiao spat out a sonorous sentence, revealing incomparable confidence. As soon as he finished speaking, the Black Panther in the shadow behind him gradually disappeared, replaced by a vast ocean of mist. The glaciers and the sea formed a scene of boundless nature. I've long heard that this kid can use more than 2 martial spirits at the same time. Now it seems that it's actually true. But what kind of martial spirit is this? Glacier martial spirit and ocean martial spirit? At this moment, even the 4 elders could not understand. They could feel an incomparably powerful aura from Ling Xiao's glacier and ocean shadows. However, these 2 auras seemed to come from the same power. As the vast ocean of mist appeared, Ling Xiao's aura became even more tyrannical. The sword in his hand seemed to want to tear the world apart. The ice beads that were originally scattered in the surroundings no longer attacked. Instead, they continuously gathered on the ice dragon sword. That sword had actually turned into a gigantic ice crystal sword. Ling Xiao's hand had already let go of the gigantic sword. When the gigantic sword left his hand, it let out a roar that seemed to tear the world apart, like the roar of a fierce beast. This is bad. Hei Sua's face revealed a look of astonishment. He tried his best to release his true essence to strengthen the defense of the 7-star ghost fire lamp. However, Pucci, the blue fireball, was actually pierced through by the gigantic ice crystal sword like a rubber ball, and a conspicuous hole appeared. This caused Hei Sua's expression to change greatly. Break! Ling Xiao roared as he crazily poured out his true essence, pushing the ice crystal sword forward. Wrapped in the imposing aura of the glacier and the ocean, the sword completely pierced through the so-called absolute defense of the fireball. Seeing this scene, the inner sect disciples almost knelt on the ground. They were so shocked that they could not describe it with words. Hei Sua's 7-star will-o-wisp lamp defense was actually pierced through by Ling Xiao's sword. Just how powerful was this? What a dense genuine, what a powerful sword skill. Is this Ling Xiao? No wonder he hasn't been defeated since he joined Yuehua school. This is too scary. I'm afraid none of US can block such a powerful attack. The astonishment of the inner court disciples was completely exposed on Hei Sua's face. That arrogant face of his just a moment ago was now deathly pale. Hei Sua's heart trembled. He thought that once Ling Xiao released his cultivation base, there would be no more secrets. Unfortunately, he now realized that he was wrong. This person always seemed to have secrets and was always so mysterious and terrifying. There was no way to dodge this terrifying sword. The aura had already locked onto Hei Sua. Hei Sua probably understood this as well, so he did not choose to dodge. Since there was no way to dodge, he might as well go all out. Although Hei Sua was shocked, he still believed that his true essence was stronger than Ling Xiao's. After the defense was removed, Hei Sua condensed the 7 will-o-wisp lamps in front of him again. However, this time, the 7 will-o-wisp lamps had condensed into the shape of a sharp arrow. He Sua then lashed out with his long black whip, which carried almost 100% of his strength, and blasted towards Ling Xiao's ice crystal sword. Boom! The violent roar shook the entire underground palace and caused it to rumble. The collision between the ice crystal sword and the will-o-wisp arrow caused a series of explosions. White and blue lights intersected and flickered continuously. A terrifying aura wreaked havoc in the underground palace, causing many inner sect disciples' faces to pale. They had never imagined that a peak second layer transcendent realm cultivator would be able to display an attack on par with an early fourth layer transcendent realm cultivator. In the blink of an eye, both of them were sent flying back at the same time. He Sua was forced back more than 10 steps before regaining his footing. Ling Xiao tumbled a few times before landing on the ground. Who was the stronger one in this attack? The onlookers stared at the two of them nervously, and after the smoke cleared, they were finally able to see clearly. At this time, He Sua's defensive equipment was covered in countless cracks, and his outer clothes were torn apart. Many red spots had appeared on his body. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that these were actually small holes caused by the sword qi. Blood flowed from each of these small holes, creating a shocking sight. Looking at Ling Xiao again, although his clothes were also tattered, his whole body was shining with a golden light. A layer of scales covered his body completely, and he was actually not injured at all. In this exchange, Ling Xiao had actually gained the upper hand. He Sua did not panic at the critical moment and instead chose the correct method, fusing all of his true qi into the 7-star will-o-wisp lamp to meet force with force. However, Ling Xiao was more prepared, while He Sua had only met this attack in haste, so he naturally did not have it as easy as Ling Xiao and ended up at a disadvantage. Of course, even though he was injured, this injury was nothing to He Sua. An early fourth layer transcendent realm cultivator was not someone sword qi could seriously injure, not to mention his defensive equipment had blocked most of the attack's power for him. A moment later, He Sua raised his head and glared at Ling Xiao, the murderous intent in his eyes thickening, but there was also a hint of seriousness in them. Ling Xiao, it seems that all of us have underestimated you. Your strength is enough for me to use all of my strength. You are a good opponent. However, you will still die. Hearing these words, the inner sect disciples were secretly shocked. Just now, Ling Xiao's attack was something they would not have been able to withstand. But not only had He Sua blocked it, he had also only suffered minor injuries. They had thought that the 7-star will-o-wisp lamp was He Sua's full strength, but unexpectedly, He Sua had not even used his full strength yet. If this was the case, could Ling Xiao still contend? After all, Ling Xiao had already used his dual martial spirits. It was impossible for him to have any other cards up his sleeve, right? Haha, unfortunately, you're not qualified for me to use my full strength. Ling Xiao smiled faintly as he looked at He Sua. Of course, he wasn't bluffing. So far, he had not even used his full strength in his human form, let alone his human dragon form or ancient golden dragon form. Humph! Stop bluffing. A trivial peak second layer transcendent realm cultivator dares to act arrogant in front of me. He Sua! Chapter 411. He Sua put away the long whip and merged with the ghost fire again. Novel! But then, the ghost fire started to grow bigger and bigger. Finally, it turned into a humanoid monster burning with blue flames. This gigantic humanoid flaming monster was at least 1,000 times larger than the will-o-wisp from before. What's going on? Did his martial soul level up? No, it doesn't look like a level up. I don't understand. I've never seen this before. Ling Xiao, do you think you're the only one who has a secret skill? He Sua and the flame deity's disciple. I have everything that you have. The humanoid monster, formed by the blue flames, had no legs. Its lower body was a ball of flame. Only its upper body was humanoid. One could see its eyes, mouth, and ears. It was more than 10 meters tall. When its huge body touched some of the buildings in the underground palace, it burned them instantly. This is the Death Dark Flame. It's one of the 12 divine fires, the Death Dark Flame. Wang Han Tianzuan suddenly exclaimed, I see. In order to deal with a mere outer disciple, this heavenly venerable demon flame really went through a lot of trouble. He actually passed a trace of his own martial spirit's divine fire to his disciple. No wonder the ghost flame martial spirit suddenly mutated. Few people knew that the flame deity's martial soul was one of the 12 divine fires, the Death Dark Flame. There was a reason why he was called the flame deity. Boy, admit defeat. You're definitely no match for the Death Dark Flame. Even a trace of the divine fire is enough to burn you to ashes. Heavenly Master Golden Light suddenly said loudly, Don't worry. As long as you're willing to be my disciple, I'll protect you regardless of whether you lose today. No one can hurt you. Thank you for your kindness, Heavenly Master Golden Light. But there's no need. I already have a master. Please don't force me. Ling Shao said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. What a pity. If you're not willing to be my disciple, I have no reason to help you. Heavenly Sovereign Golden Light sighed repeatedly. Ling Shao, although Jin Guang is not a gentleman when he takes advantage of others, he is right. The dark flame of death is not something that you can withstand. Wang Han Tianzuan said with a frown. What joy is there in life? What fear is there in death? Today, I, Ling Shao, really want to see just how terrifying these death dark flames are. Ling Shao was also afraid of death. But he couldn't be afraid of battle. If he was afraid just because he saw the Death Dark Flame, then how was he going to collect the 12 godly flames in the future? Reckless fool! The blue flame monster was finally fully formed, and an incomparably powerful aura of destruction surged out of He Sua's body. At this moment, there were actually quite a few inner disciples who were kneeling on the ground. It was as if they could see the flame deity arriving in person. It was as if he could see the scene of the dark flames of death burning everything. He Sua's terrifying aura continued to rise, becoming stronger and stronger. Boom! Finally, the ground couldn't withstand this terrifying force and directly blasted a large hole in it. Green Valley Manor was destroyed. But it didn't matter. There was no one left in this demon cave. However, at this moment, this terrifying aura attracted the disciples and experts of the other sects who were still in the Green Valley Manor. This is the aura of the peak transcendent realm fourth layer. Someone cried out in surprise. It was just a mutated martial spirit, just a trace of the death dark flames fused into it. He Sua's strength actually soared to the peak transcendent realm fourth layer in an instant. This aura was simply too terrifying. It was simply too shocking. It seems that senior brother He Sua was telling the truth when he said he didn't use his full strength. This is his true trump card. It's even stronger than the 7-star Ghost Fire lamp. Yes, I didn't think that he would be able to obtain a trace of the dark death flames and possess the aura of Empyrean demon flame. If an ordinary martial artist were to feel this aura, they would have already been defeated. This Ling Shao is truly a tough fellow. Unfortunately, no matter how tough he is, it's useless. The current He Sua is definitely not something Ling Shao can deal with. He's dead for sure. More and more people knelt on the ground. It wasn't because of He Sua's strength, but because of the terrifying aura he constantly released. This aura was endless and belonged to the flame deity. This should be one of the benefits of being the flame deity's disciple. Su Ying and Wang Feng hadn't released such an aura because they had died too quickly and hadn't had time to do so. He Sua at the early transcendent realm fourth layer was already terrifying enough, and the 7-star ghost fire lamp was already powerful enough. But now, with He Sua at the peak transcendent realm fourth layer, just how powerful would he be? Would Ling Shao be able to block a single attack from He Sua? Ling Shao stared fixedly at the giant flame monster behind He Sua. He knew very well that Wang Han Tianzuan and Heavenly Senior Golden Light weren't joking around. After the death dark flames fused into the ghost fire martial spirit, it had undergone some kind of mutation, increasing He Sua's strength to the peak transcendent realm 4th layer. But this wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was the flame monster's ability to burn, easily burning the buildings in the underground palace to ashes. Just how high was its temperature? Even the burning heaven from Ling Zhao's soul dye couldn't compare to it, right? Peak transcendent realm 4th layer? How difficult to deal with. Ling Zhao thought to himself. He understood that He Sua's strength wouldn't increase for too long, and the ghost fire martial spirit's mutation was only temporary. But even so, he still had to face such a powerful He Sua. Elder Jean finally showed a smile. Since Ling Zhao's battle with He Sua began, this was the first time he had smiled, because at this moment he felt that Ling Zhao's death was certain. But while he was happy, he was also a little surprised. Ling Zhao was actually able to force He Sua to use the death dark flames to stimulate the ghost fire martial spirit's mutation. He really couldn't be underestimated. If such a person was left alone, he would definitely grow into a terrifying existence in the future. Originally, he should cherish such a talent, but unfortunately this kid offended him and became his enemy, so he couldn't let him live. Elder Tu also sighed secretly. Such an outstanding child with a bright future. He might even become the pillar of the Yuehua sect in the future. However, he was going to die here today. If Elder Jean had made a move, he could have persuaded or even stopped him. But at this moment, He Sua and Ling Zhao were fighting, so he had no reason to intervene. At this moment, no one thought that Ling Zhao still had a chance of winning. Even Wang Han Tianzuan, who had always supported Ling Zhao, felt that Ling Zhao was doomed. That was why she persuaded Ling Zhao to admit defeat. Because if Ling Zhao didn't admit defeat, she had no reason to intervene. And once she did, Elder Jean would definitely intervene. So now, Ling Zhao's survival depended entirely on whether Ling Zhao was willing to lower his head and admit defeat. As for the inner disciples, they all felt that it was a pity. Ling Zhao was really amazing to be able to force He Sua to this extent. Chapter 412. The fear and panic in He Sua's heart had already disappeared. The terrifying martial spirit brought about by the dark flames of death allowed him to look down on Ling Zhao with a high and mighty attitude. He revealed a complacent smile and sighed. Why did you force me to use the dark flames of death? I didn't want to take your life, but when I use this move, even I feel that it's terrifying and uncontrollable. Hypocrite! Ling Zhao looked at He Sua coldly, as if he was looking at a complacent fool standing on the shoulder of a giant. Suddenly, the ice dragon's sword in his hand thrust it out. It was still flying snow. His fastest sword strike. Do you still want to harm me with the same move? He Sua looked at Ling Zhao's sword attack with disdain. A tyrannical aura soared into the sky, and the gigantic flaming monster behind him actually extended its palm, easily blocking Ling Zhao's sword attack. However, right at this moment, the seemingly invisible sword attack actually increased in power once again, and the flaming monster's palm was pierced through in an instant. How is this possible? He Sua's expression changed once again. He did not know how many times he had been surprised. Ling Zhao had given him too many surprises. Every time he would be caught off guard. Block it for me. The palm that was pierced through condensed once again and crushed Ling Zhao's sword chi, finally completely defeating Ling Zhao's attack. That's not right. He Sua was about to retaliate, but he suddenly sensed that Ling Zhao's other hand, which was hidden behind him, had reached out. There was also a sword in that hand. Bastard, I actually forgot that this brat can do two things at once. He Sua had seen Ling Zhao wielding a sword with both hands before, but he was able to use two completely different martial skills. But he never thought that he would fall into this trap today. The floating snow sword pierced out just like that, using the move Flying Snow. because the speed of this move was fast enough, even if the opponent sensed it, they would not be able to react. Puchi! A ray of sword chi slashed through the air and pierced through He Sua's body, leaving behind a glaring bloody light. Tisk! Ling Xiao sighed inwardly. What a pity. At the crucial moment, He Sua actually managed to avoid his vitals. Otherwise, this sword strike would have killed him. What? Everyone was shocked. The onlookers, an inner disciple of Yue Hua school. For elders, their gazes instantly froze, unable to believe their own eyes. How could this happen? How could this happen? He Sua had used the dark flames of death to not only mutate his ghost flame martial spirit, but his cultivation had also soared to the peak of the transcendent realm fourth layer. In everyone's opinion, Ling Xiao had no way out. He was dead for sure. However, Ling Xiao taught them a lesson under the watchful eyes of the crowd, making them remember this day forever. The opponent's attack was powerful. In that case, he would strike first and gain the upper hand. If he was unable to move due to the opponent's terrifying strength, he would instantly think that he had lost. Even if he could win, he would definitely lose. Ling Xiao had used his own performance to teach everyone a lesson. At the same time, he had also taught He Sua a painful lesson. Elder Jin's heart couldn't help but tremble. He had lived for so long, but he had never seen such a terrifying young man. This Ling Xiao, despite being at such a great disadvantage, actually managed to pierce through He Sua's body despite the flame deity's terrifying aura. He even almost killed He Sua with a single sword strike. No, He Sua had suffered quite a blow this time. He let out a beast-like roar from his throat. The huge flame monster behind him had a ferocious expression. The monster waved its huge arms and slammed them towards Ling Xiao. A destructive aura filled the air. He Sua had completely lost control. Die! 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 He Sua roared continuously. The huge palms filled with terrifying destructive power continued to slam the ground. The underground palace began to collapse and was about to be destroyed. Figures constantly rushed out from the underground palace and landed in the open space outside. They didn't want to be engulfed by He Sua's crazy attack. If they died like that, it would be too unjust. Between the huge flame hands, there was a figure who seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll, easily dodging the seemingly fierce attack. Ling Xiao loved to deal with crazy disciples the most. Under the effect of the mountain and river martial spirit, he could grasp all the flaws of his opponent and accurately calculate all the attacks of reckless people. The angrier, the crazier, and the more reckless the enemy was, the more accurately he could control them. Therefore, He Sua's attacks seemed crazy, but in reality they were all useless. The illusion of the glacier and ocean behind Ling Xiao had already disappeared. At this moment, only the illusion of a black panther faintly appeared behind him. Kill you! I will kill you! He Sua couldn't accept the fact that his body had been pierced. If he hadn't avoided the fatal blow at the critical moment, this sword could have pierced his heart and killed him on the spot. This was simply a great humiliation to him. In that instant, his cultivation had skyrocketed to the peak of the transcendent realm fourth layer. Yet his opponent had so easily stabbed him. How could he accept this? Not to mention, he had used the flame deity's dark death flames. Not only had he lost face, but he had also lost face for his master, the flame deity. Pum! Suddenly, Ling Xiao, who was dodging, stabbed his sword towards the huge flame hand. Pooh! In that instant, Ling Xiao was sent flying by the huge flame hand, coughing up a mouthful of blood. Hey, this thing is really strong. Ling Xiao landed on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. The onlookers all felt that Ling Xiao was being a bit unreasonable. He could have just dodged. Why did he insist on meeting force with force? Is Ling Xiao stupid? That's right, in a contest of pure strength, he definitely isn't senior brother He Sua's opponent. As long as he continues to dodge, Senior brother He Sua won't be able to last much longer. Perhaps this is called overestimating one's strength. Idiot. Many people were speechless and puzzled by Ling Xiao's unwise action. What do you know? Heavenly Venerable Golden Light stood there, staring greedily at Ling Xiao, as if he couldn't wait to snatch Ling Xiao away and make him his disciple. Do you know what fighting spirit is? Do you know what the heart of a cultivator is? Ling Xiao isn't a coward like you. Fighting against a strong enemy is an excellent opportunity to improve his cultivation and strength. Who's the idiot here? He was right. The reason Ling Xiao gave up on dodging and chose to meet force with force was because he felt that his cultivation was about to improve. If he could use this flame monster to improve his cultivation, it would be an excellent thing for Ling Xiao. Although this guy was very calm in battle and calculated everything precisely in order to control the situation, he was also very calm. Chapter 413. The shadow of the Black Panther disappeared. Lathe shadow that appeared behind Ling Xiao turned into three. Glacier, sea, and earth. Currently, the three forces of nature that the mountain and river martial spirit possessed were all released. Pum! Another head-on collision. Ling Xiao's body was sent flying again. But this time there was no blood. There's a way. Ling Xiao's face lit up with excitement. He could feel his cultivation wall constantly shattering. Every time he attacked the huge flaming palm, it would shatter a little. What a madman! What a terrifying madman! No one would raise their cultivation so crazily, right? He's simply playing with his life. Cries of horror came from the crowd. They had already understood Ling Xiao's true intentions from Golden Light Heavenly Senior's explanation, but they still felt that Ling Xiao's actions were too crazy. Kill him! Quickly kill him, He Sua! This little brat is using your attacks to raise his cultivation. Don't let him break through. Golden Light Heavenly Senior anxiously sent a message to He Sua, hoping that He Sua could kill Ling Xiao before Ling Xiao broke through. He Sua seemed to have noticed this, but instead of attacking, he chose to retreat and stop his pursuit. He was afraid. He felt that his attacks wouldn't be able to kill Ling Xiao. Instead, they would allow Ling Xiao to continue tempering himself and breaking through. Ling Xiao, who was only at the peak of the second layer transcendent realm, was already so terrifying. If he broke through to the third layer transcendent realm, would he still have a chance of winning? Many thanks, Senior Brother He Sua. Boom! A powerful aura rushed out from Ling Xiao's body. The violent true qi transformed into a golden dragon that roared towards the sky. The glacier, sea, and earth all emitted a strange light at the same time, so bright that it was difficult to open one's eyes. Ling Xiao stood there. Nobody knew when he had changed into clean clothes. His long robe fluttered without wind. He held a long sword in his hand, his long hair fluttering in the wind, like a sword immortal from ancient times. He broke through. The aura of a third-layer transcendent realm cultivator was definitely not a lie. Ling Xiao actually fought like a madman, borrowing the strength of his opponent's attacks to break through his defenses. The onlookers couldn't believe their eyes. He had heard of such things before. There were also such lunatics in the immemorial era, but those were all stories recorded in books. Today, they actually saw it with their own eyes. Idiot, what are you standing there for? Take advantage of the fact that he just broke through and hasn't stabilized his cultivation to kill him. Elder Jin's voice transmission once again reached He Sua's ears. He Sua's body trembled as he suddenly realized. This was a battle of life and death. It was not a spar at all. Either Ling Xiao died or he died. He really had to give it his all. Senior brother, I can spare your life. Just as He Sua was about to attack, Ling Xiao spoke. What? He Sua was stunned. At this moment, he no longer had the confidence to win. If he could survive, it would be a good ending. Idiot, he's trying to shake your fighting spirit. Kill him. Elder Jin's voice rang out again. He Sua suddenly trembled. thinking that this Ling Xiao was really cunning. With a roar, he thrust out his palms. The flame monster wrapped around his palms and pressed towards Ling Xiao's chest. Ling Xiao sighed and said, "Senior brother, I really don't want to kill you. Why do you have to force me?" He was telling the truth, because through his battle with He Suo, he had noticed something. The dark flames of death were very beneficial to his cultivation. He naturally couldn't challenge the flame deity to a spar. So, sparing He Suo's life was extremely beneficial to him. Unfortunately, there was no other way. Others wouldn't believe him. "You want to shake me? Dream on." He Suo's attack still arrived. Ling Xiao's figure floated backwards, easily dodging this attack. "Since that's the case, I'll destroy your mutated martial spirit today and let you die this time." At this moment, Ling Xiao made up his mind and simply threw this mutated martial spirit into the mountain river world to see what kind of strange effect it would produce. Maybe it would be more useful than sparing He Suo. Glacier force, ocean force, earth force, wind celestial phenomenon, thunder celestial phenomenon, rain celestial phenomenon. 3 kinds of power belonging to the mountain river martial spirit. 3 kinds of power belonging to the 12 golden lotus arts. Ice storm. 6 kinds of power were all integrated into the ice storm. The terrifying blizzard, as if the end of the world had arrived, appeared above the green valley and blocked the flame monster's attack. How did this kid do it? He can actually integrate such terrifying power into his own attack. His control is so exquisite, isn't it too unbelievable? The onlookers were shocked. They couldn't understand Ling Xiao's fighting style. One had to know that the more power there was, the greater the resistance to integration. The slightest error could cause a conflict between the powers. If it was light, the power would collapse, and if it was heavy, it would cause an energy explosion. Instead of hurting others, it would hurt oneself. However, Ling Xiao was able to fuse 6 terrifying powers into one, and he didn't seem to be in any discomfort at all. This was too shocking. How could they understand that with the precise calculation of the mountain river martial spirit, Ling Xiao was absolutely unique in the integration of power, not to mention 6 kinds of power. Even if it was 100 or 1,000 kinds of power, it would be absolutely easy to capture. Which kind of power needed to be slightly weaker? Which kind of power needed to be slightly stronger? Which kind of power needed to have a slightly higher proportion? All of these could be calculated. Therefore, the integration of power that was difficult for others was a piece of cake for him. It could be done easily. From the initial state of separation, the 6 types of power quickly fused into the snowstorm attack. The howling wind and the falling snowstorm caused the martial warriors with low cultivation to flee in panic. They hid very far away, afraid that they would be affected by this attack. The power of the apocalypse, the aura of destruction. At this moment, it had completely filled the entire battlefield. Mutated martial spirit. Monster formed from flames, shatter for me. Ling Xiao let out a soft chant as he waved the ice dragon's sword in his hand in a special trajectory. A gale blew. Ice and snow filled the sky. On the battlefield, the 2 figures could no longer be seen clearly. Only the blizzard became the main theme. He Suo stared at this sword in a daze. This was an invincible sword strike that could destroy everything in its path. It was so gorgeous, so poignant, and so powerful. It was as if magnificence and power were tied together at this moment, finally fusing perfectly. Looking at this terrifying sword strike, He Suo immediately felt that he was invincible. It was as if no matter how hard he tried, he would not be able to escape death in the end. But at this moment, the arrow had to be shot. It was already unknown if he was controlling the flame monster, or if the flame monster was controlling him. That powerful palm strike was still sent out. Chapter 4:14. The pair of gigantic flaming palms were torn apart by the blizzard in an instant. They turned into sparks and then extinguished. Novel. This move was the move that killed the plague demon king. The power at that time made the Plague Demon King unable to fight back at all. Although Ling Xiao was in his human dragon form at that time, the current Ling Xiao's cultivation was even more refined. Coupled with the 6 types of terrifying natural forces, its power was even more terrifying than when it killed the Plague Demon King. Not good. It doesn't matter if He Suo dies, but where's my face? Elder Jean saw that the situation was not good and suddenly released a powerful aura in an attempt to interfere in the battle between Ling Xiao and He Su. Again, this time, Ling Xiao was on guard against the shameless Elder Jean. Suddenly, he felt that powerful aura rushing towards him. He hurriedly retracted the vital essence he released and prepared to escape with all his might. He definitely could not block Elder Jin's attack. But if he wanted to escape, Elder Jean could forget about catching up to him. In terms of speed, he was not as fast as Elder Jean. But Elder Jean knew nothing about formations. He only needed to use a little formation to make this old guy lose track of him completely. But at that moment, Heavenly Sovereign Golden Light and Wan Han Tianzuan actually acted at the same time, blocking Elder Jin's hidden killing intent. Boom! With a loud sound, the 3 elders each took a step back, their faces a little pale. But in an instant, they returned to normal. Elder Jean, you're really as shameless as that brat Ling Xiao said. Wang Han Tianzuan's beautiful eyes were as cold as frost. Clearly, she was really angry. That's right, Grand Elder. Aren't your actions a little too disgraceful? Even I feel ashamed to be in your company. Heavenly Sovereign Golden Light was a straightforward person. He originally intended to be neutral, but Elder Jean sneak-attacked Ling Xiao twice in a row, and this time in front of the disciples of other sections. This was too shameless. Little bastard, how dare you kill him? Elder Jin's sneak attack on Ling Xiao failed, but he suddenly saw Ling Xiao's attack land solidly on He Suo's body. The huge flaming monster was torn to pieces by the terrifying snowstorm. In the chaos, no one noticed that Ling Xiao had absorbed the flaming monster into his body. What Elder Jean saw was the snowstorm tearing He Suo's body into pieces. Therefore he cried out in surprise, "Old bastard! So what if I killed her? What are you going to do about it? You were the one who agreed to this life and death battle, but now you don't allow me to kill him. Do you really not want your old face anymore?" After Ling Xiao killed He Suo, he was still prepared to escape. Although Golden Light, Heavenly Master, and Wan Han Tianzuan were protecting him, Ling Xiao could not place all his hopes on others. If all else failed, he would transform into the ancient golden dragon and escape. At worst, he would wander the world. He did not believe that no sect would be willing to accept him as a disciple with his current aptitude, the key to the true demon's empire's treasure, and the pestilence umbrella as a stepping stone. As long as the Yuehua school was not willing to protect him, he would leave. In any case, he only had a good impression of the outer sect, Yang Danlin, Wan Han Tianzuan, and a few others. The atmosphere of this sect was really disappointing. Even if he left, there was nothing to be reluctant about. Of course, he was still unwilling to leave if he could. After all, it was not easy to get to where he was today. Besides, who could guarantee that the other sects were not like this? What a bold young man! In any case, I would never dare to kill a disciple protected by the head of the law enforcement hall. I don't have the guts either. This young man really has the aura of a human monarch. He is fearless and daring. Many people in the crowd looked at Ling Xiao with admiration in their hearts. Ling Xiao's performance today was simply too amazing. With his peak second layer transcendent realm cultivation, he forcibly suppressed the Yuehua school's elite inner disciple, He Suo. He was forced to use the dark flames of death to mutate his martial spirit and temporarily raise his cultivation to the peak transcendent realm fourth layer. When everyone thought that Ling Xiao was going to lose, Ling Xiao gave them another pleasant surprise. The young man actually used his opponent's terrifying mutated martial spirit to smoothly rise from the peak second layer to the early third layer. Then he fused his 6 different powers together and slashed out an earth-shattering sword strike. Under Elder Jin's pressure and intimidation, he killed He Suo, who was much stronger than him, on the spot. This young man used his courage, wisdom, and bravery to conquer many of the spectators in the crowd. Some people were afraid of him. As for some people, they were filled with admiration for him. Even in the face of the high and mighty Grand Elder, he still dared to argue with reason and cleverly used the relationship between the elders to protect himself. This young man was simply a genius. If he was simply unafraid of death, he could only be regarded as a boorish man. But Ling Xiao's performance was definitely not a boorish man. He was not afraid of death, but at the same time, he knew how to use his wisdom to protect himself. Mang Yuan stood there, his gaze fixed on Ling Xiao, a trace of confusion appearing in his eyes. His junior brother, He Suo, was killed by Ling Xiao just like that? Even Elder Jin couldn't stop him? And this wasn't the most frightening thing. Ling Xiao's final strike was something that even he, one of the top 10 core disciples of the Yuehua school, had to use all his strength to deal with. The power of that strike was simply too terrifying. If he wasn't careful, he could have been defeated. In the past, he was even more arrogant than He Suo, even more arrogant and disdainful of Ling Xiao. But today, after the end of the battle, he looked at his junior brother, He Suo, who was already in pieces. He felt a chill in his heart for no reason. No wonder He Suo couldn't kill this kid, even after using all his means. It seemed that this kid was really capable and was constantly growing. No, he had to strangle this kid in the cradle. If he didn't act now, he wouldn't have another chance. Mang Yuan felt a strong sense of crisis, but at this time he didn't have a chance to act. Heavenly Venerable Golden Light and Wang Han Tianzuan had already made it clear that they wanted to protect this kid. Even Elder Jin didn't have a chance, so what could he do? It was really hateful. It seemed that he could only wait until he returned to the sect to make further plans. Are the 2 of you determined to protect this little bastard today? Elder Jin asked with a frown. Haha. What I mean is that since he has the ability to kill He Suo, then he has the ability to kill the Plague Demon King. He definitely has the ability to complete the mission alone. Our previous suspicions should be over. Not only can we not punish him, but we also have to reward him. Heavenly Venerable Golden Light was an open-minded person. Although he was rejected by Ling Xiao as a disciple, he didn't hate Ling Xiao because of this. He continued to speak up for Ling Xiao. That's right. Ling Xiao has worked hard and made great contributions. As elders of the sect, we are here to find fault with him. What kind of logic is this? Wang Han Tianzuan also said,